Chapter 655. Songtian infinite. After the words of the white-haired ancestor ended, he did not give the listeners much time to think and soon had the listener sitting at the front ask a question. This listener inquired about the confusion arising during the hearing of the Tao. The path of power is vast and boundless, and the Tao practice of the white-haired ancestor is extremely profound. Even Guan, with his achievements in Tao comprehension, benefited greatly from the listening. Facing the listener's question, the white-haired ancestor quickly dispelled doubts, answering with profound meaning, causing many listeners to fall into contemplation. The white-haired ancestor continued to call on people, letting the listeners ask questions one after another. Search *the Nefire @ website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan originally wanted to gather some information. Seeing that the previous questions were all about cultivation matters, he felt he couldn't make an exception. However, after several dozen listeners, someone finally asked a question unrelated to cultivation. Ancestor, you are honored as the celestial Tao venerable of the celestial court. How do you view the relationship between chaos and the celestial court? Does the celestial court leave room for chaos? This listener's voice was female, her words sharp, her tone aggressive, more like an interrogation. Guan felt that despite her cultivation level being just at the heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal, she dared to speak to the white-haired ancestor in such a manner. What kind of backing did she have? Chaos is the place where the great Tao is nurtured. It cannot be eradicated. The celestial court can only set boundaries, leaving no room for leeway. The white-haired ancestor responded indifferently, his tone unchanged from before, seeming not to be angered. This listener was surrounded by the aura of rules. Guan was also unsure if she was satisfied with the answer. Questions continued, and once someone led, subsequent questions were all related to the celestial court. Besides the celestial Tao immortal position assessment and participating in celestial army selection, is there a third way to join the immortal class? If one renders great merit to the living beings of a certain world, the celestial court will also reward them, allowing them to join the immortal class. This is also the main purpose of the heavenly Tao. The god of destruction destroyed the Lingjiang great world without proclaiming the celestial court's decree. Is there another scheme behind this? I do not control the celestial gods. I cannot answer you. I also will not help you investigate this matter. If you are dissatisfied, you can petition Songtian. Facing the listener's inquiries, the white-haired ancestor's every answer came quickly. She did not seem to hold the posture of an immortal god, and she also displayed considerable toughness in the face of some challenging questions. Through the listener's questions, Guan also learned about Songtian. Songtian is a kind of will manifested by the celestial court using the heavenly Tao, omnipresent. If there is suffering in the human world, one can complain to Songtian, and it will be conveyed to the celestial court. The white-haired ancestor used Songtian to handle many listeners' grievances. Guan also felt that Songtian was quite far-fetched, but it related to the celestial Tao destiny, which even a Tao extreme Daoyuo immortal could not deduce. Throughout the listening, he had only one feeling. All living beings have long suffered under the celestial court. The celestial court's inaction and wanton actions are clearly not isolated incidents. Yet faced with so many complaints, the white-haired ancestor remained indifferent, did not make any promises, but also did not get angry over the listener's questions. She truly resembled the immortal god Guan imagined, not feeling joy or sorrow over the happiness or suffering of all living beings. She seemed unconcerned with the suffering of all beings. Her purpose here was not to do anything for the celestial court. She simply wished to expound on the Tao, seeking nothing in return. Guan had to admit that such a mindset was the strongest, unbound by any factors. Of course, due to his stance, Guan could not agree with the celestial court, because their inaction also posed a threat to him. Time quickly passed. Unknowingly, it was Guan's turn to speak. He was already prepared. When the white-haired ancestor's gaze fell on him, he opened his mouth and asked, I have traveled to many universes, finding those powerful ones in infinite expansion. I want to ask, is the great Tao truly infinite? And what is our meaning as cultivators within the great Tao? Regarding the celestial court's issues, many had already asked, making him unwilling to inquire further. whether the Great Tao is infinite. This is a question he pondered frequently. If the Great Tao is truly infinite, it would mean that time and space are also infinite, with no distinction between ancient and future, and cultivators are merely part of the Great Tao, never able to surpass it. If Guan were also infinite like the Great Tao, he should not only have infinite possibilities in the future, his past should also be without end. He could not imagine having no origin to his past. This is like the question of which came first, the chicken or the egg. If Guan is the chicken, aiming to achieve infinity like the Great Tao, wouldn't he need to create an egg for himself, which easily leads to a paradox? The existence of the path of cause and effect proves that everything has a starting point. Guan's question brought silence to the dojo. No longer were there whispers. The white-haired ancestor said, "As of now, the Great Tao is indeed infinite. Even the celestial court cannot reach the source of the Great Tao. Even the Supreme Celestial Emperor cannot see the end of the Great Tao. It is precisely for this reason that we can continuously comprehend the Great Tao, never feeling weary or satisfied." This answer did not fully satisfy Guan, but at least clarified that the celestial court has not yet reached the point of dominating the Great Tao. The questions continued. When everyone had finished asking, several days had passed. When involving enlightenment issues, the white-haired ancestor would speak more. After the questions ended, the white-haired ancestor rose and left, and once she left, the dojo became lively, with some listeners immediately leaving, while others chose to stay and continue socializing. Hongyazi did not leave, and pulled Guan along to interact, which suited Guan perfectly. When meeting a heaven-opening Daluo immortal from the Great Thousand World, Guan feigned curiosity and asked, "I heard from a fellow Taoist that Chaos Grudge Luo from Chaos is wreaking havoc in the Great Thousand World. Will the Celestial Court handle this matter?" This heaven-opening Daluo immortal, upon hearing this, snorted. How would the Celestial Court handle it? Chaosa creatures that can survive are basically favored by the great powers of the Celestial Court. I have already detected the matter of Chaos Grudge Luo, affecting several dozen Great Thousand Worlds, yet there are no actions from the Celestial Court. Clearly there is a calculation. We should just pretend not to see. Another Daluo immortal spoke. Indeed, the 3,000 Great Worlds seem to be the heavenly Daos main stage, but more like the Celestial Court's breeding ground. Nothing that happens within the 3,000 Great Worlds can escape their eyes. If they don't act, it indicates it's their doing. Others followed suit, expressing great dissatisfaction with the Celestial Court. Guan greatly admired them. These people truly dared to speak. They were not afraid of this reaching the ears of the Celestial Court. After their conversation ended, Hongyazi pulled Guan to a secluded place and whispered, "Are you curious as to why they dare discuss the Celestial Court so boldly?" Guan nodded. Because the endless Tao mountain is not affected by celestial Tao destiny, you should be able to feel it, and the immortal gods who can come here aren't bound by the Celestial Court's rules, so it's no harm if they're overheard. Hongyazi explained. Guan curiously asked, "How does the Misty Immortal Court view the Celestial Court?" The Misty Immortal Court has produced many immortal gods, recognized as a subordinate sect by the Celestial Court. Hongyazi sneered. How else can they see it? Outwardly they still have to flatter the Celestial Court. Within the heavenly Tao, no force dares to oppose the Celestial Court. Those who resist have already been obliterated. No matter how powerful, they will eventually be destroyed by heavenly might. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 656. Reincarnation of Yuan Luo. Hongyazi was clearly quite discontent with the Celestial Court. When Guan asked, he opened up immediately and began to speak eloquently. It turns out that, although the Misty Immortal Court has a path for ascending to immortality, it comes at a significant cost. Every 10,000 years, it must offer a vast amount of resources to the Celestial Court and erect divine statues of the Heavenly Court immortals in every immortal mansion. Those who successfully enter the immortal class, although they don't sever ties with the Misty Immortal Court, become arrogant and treat the others as slaves. Through Hongyazi, Guan gained more understanding of the Misty Immortal Court. Although the destiny of the misty immortal court is not as powerful as the celestial court, it is still a formidable existence. Whether there is a perfect Taoist Great Luo immortal realm within it is hard to say at the moment. He can't fully calculate it. The inability to calculate suggests that such an existence might indeed be there. The fact that it can nurture an emperor of eternal life is enough to prove the deep foundation of the misty immortal court. Hongyazi was quite impressed with Guan, feeling as if they were old friends at first meeting. He even invited Guan to visit the misty immortal court in the future, handing him a token named the Red Domain Immortal Token. With this token, Guan could enter the misty immortal court and be honored as a distinguished guest. The misty immortal court possesses numerous immortal domains. Hongyazi is the pavilion master of the Red Domain Immortal Mansion and holds significant power within the misty immortal court. Guan accepted without reservation, saying he would definitely visit him. Afterward, the two parted ways. Guan was merely a clone. He did not plan to leave Endless Dao Mountain just yet. Instead, he intended to find a suitable Dao Mountain to settle down on. He didn't need to return to his true self. His true self could already access his memories and even directly control him. At the same time, far away, in the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guan began to ponder whether or not to visit the misty immortal court to see Hongyazi. Given his current cultivation level, even if he encountered trouble in the misty immortal court, he could easily retreat unscathed. Forget it. There's no need to rush into this matter, especially since he has no pressing reason to visit the misty immortal court. First, he should elevate his cultivation to the perfection realm of the Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal before considering it. Guan closed his eyes, laying on a rock to bask in the sun, while his thoughts wandered to the omnipresent Dao rules. Atop the magnificent golden furnace, Huangfeng Immortal Monarch sat cross-legged in midair, hands resting on his knees, silently practicing his arts. CTH Novel FIR. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. A golden light appeared behind him, manifesting a figure. It was the celestial calming god. The celestial calming god clasped his fists in salute and said, "Immortal monarch, Chaos Grudge Luo has become a significant force. If we don't suppress him soon, I'm afraid it will cause great trouble. Under the heavens, a higher power will surely notice." Huangfeng Immortal Monarch, with his back turned, did not open his eyes as he asked, "Has the power of the Chaos Grudge Luo invaded the celestial spirit great world?" The celestial calming god frowned and said, "Yes, but his power has vanished. It's unclear whether he withdrew or if a great power intervened." Over the years, he had kept an eye on Chaos Grudge Luo, and was quite surprised by the anomalies in the celestial spirit great world. He hadn't consulted the celestial spirit god, aware of the past of the celestial spirit great world, feeling that there was a great cause and effect in which he dared not indulge. Now hearing Huangfeng Immortal Monarch mention the celestial spirit great world, his vigilance only heightened. He must absolutely avoid getting entangled with the causes and effects of the celestial spirit great world. Upon hearing his words, Huangfeng Immortal Monarch opened his eyes. He gazed down at the world within the furnace, contemplating something unknown. For a long time. Begin closing the net. You're responsible for eliminating the power of Chaos Grudge Luo. I will request stronger forces of the heavenly Dao to capture him. Huangfeng Immortal Monarch spoke, allowing the celestial calming god to breathe a sigh of relief as he accepted the order and departed. After the celestial calming god's departure, the area fell silent, with Huangfeng Immortal Monarch's eyes flickering, pondering something in his heart. Time passed gently. Since the teaching session at Endless Dao Mountain ended, Guan had not encountered any major events, and life became leisurely once more. The dark clouds looming over the world had dissipated, though conflicts in the human world persisted. After Guan eradicated the power of Chaos Grudge Luo, within 100 years, the Qianquan sect regained peace, and began to send disciples out again to save the world. In a blink of an eye, 10,000 years passed in an instant. At over 17 million years old, Guan had accumulated 16 trillion years of lifespan. Using 8 trillion years of lifespan to progress from the early to the middle stage of the Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal Realm, excluding the depletion from the lifespan barrier. Therefore, he planned to reach 20 trillion years of lifespan before attempting to break through to the later stage. Until he reaches the perfection realm of the Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal, he has no intention of pursuing the functional threshold of 100 trillion years of lifespan. In the spring of that year, while Guan was in the courtyard writing with his brush, he suddenly looked up, his eyes carrying an unusual expression. Shenzhen, who was playing the zither beside him, noticed his anomaly and asked, "What is it? Has something happened to the Qiankuan sect?" Where Guan was looking was precisely in the direction of the Qiankuan sect. "Nothing much, just that a disciple with extraordinary talent is about to be born in the Qiankuan sect," Guan casually replied, then withdrew his gaze and continued writing. Shenzhen became curious and probed further. How does he compare to Emperor Tianhong or Zhao Rushan? As the millennia passed, the conflicts in the human world had neared their end. The enmity between Emperor Tianhong and Zhao Rushan was renowned across the world, both being the strongest prodigies of different eras. Now, as they clashed like water and fire, the world was curious as to who would emerge victorious in the end. Perhaps even more so, Guan said, with profound implication. Emperor Tianhong was an immortal god reincarnation, while the disciple mentioned was the reincarnation of Chaos Grudge Luo. Chaos Grudge Luo didn't seem to have reincarnated of his own volition. It seemed he was cast into the reincarnation of the celestial spirit Great World by some powerful being, conveniently ending up in the Qiankuan sect, which was certainly no coincidence. It appears that behind Tai Immortal Monarch or Profound Star Immortal Monarch, there exists an even more powerful presence keeping an eye on Guan. Although separated by celestial Tao destiny, Guan found it difficult to deduce. However, the other party didn't dare act rashly even when facing his pre-breakthrough self, so naturally, now that he has broken through, he would be even less panicked. If that's the case, the Qiankuan sect is finally going to rise. Shenzhen commented, without giving much thought, but rather with a sense of amazement. The Qiankuan sect is thriving but too young compared to sects that have been around for millions, tens of millions, or even longer. In all aspects, it falls far behind. If it could give birth to a disciple with talent surpassing even that of Emperor Tianhong or Zhao Rushan, it might possibly close that gap. Having spent tens of thousands of years near the Qiankuan sect, Shenzhen had developed feelings for it. Any Wuxia disciple visiting the Qiankuan sect would be received as an honored guest, without any incidents of disrespect thus far. The leadership of the Qiankuan sect holds Wuxia in high regard and dares not take it lightly. The Qiankuan sect will rise eventually, sooner or later, and they will also fall eventually. Guan said as he continued to write. He had even given up on the supreme sect, so he wouldn't be constantly sheltering the Qiankuan sect. Shenzhen did not question Guan's words but instead asked, "If Emperor Tianhong were to return, would you really take him as a disciple?" Guan replied, "I do not enjoy breaking my word." In the Taoist field of the beginningless, there were no major secrets to keep. The dojo itself could be moved or rebuilt. That Emperor Tianhong could kneel for so many years was enough to prove his character. What if he was an immortal god reincarnation? Perhaps Guan could learn more about the celestial court from Emperor Tianhong. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 657. Unbeatable Emperor. 16 years later, a major event occurred in the Qiankuan sect. A 16-year-old male disciple was unusually accepted as a disciple by the sect hierarch, with the intention of grooming him to be the next sect hierarch. This matter had the approval of the 4 grand elders, and various rumors spread within the sect and even to the entire world. This boy's name is Yuan Luo. He didn't originally have this name, but after his first qi absorption cultivation, he changed it to this name. During his first qi absorption, he successfully established his foundation, shocking the cultivator who was instructing him, and the news quickly reached the higher-ups of the Qiankuan sect. Thereafter, Yuan Luo took only a year to condense a golden core, and at 16 he was already at the nascent soul realm, with a cultivation speed that was astonishingly fast. I Qingshan discussed for several days and decided to nurture Yuan Luo in the same manner as training a prodigy in the Dao court. They are determined to cultivate Yuan Luo to be comparable to Zhao Rushan or Emperor Tianhong, but in my opinion, they are relying on Wuxi's protection. Without Wuxia, raising disciples like this would only lead to a premature demise. An Xian spoke while standing next to Guan, who was fishing by the edge of a lake created by the ghost mother of ephemera, which was stocked with many nimble fish for his amusement. It doesn't matter. Whether we admit it or not, the outside world sees Wuxia as the pillar of the Qingkuan sect. And indeed, we've done many things. Guan said, staring at the lake's surface. As his cultivation level became higher, and the years he experienced became more numerous, Guan's mindset also transformed. He focused more on his own feelings. An Xian curiously asked, Master, what's the origin of Yuan Luo? With such incredible talent? He must be the reincarnation of a great power, right? Yes, in his past life he was called Chaos Grudge Luo, causing havoc across many great thousand worlds. The previous calamity in the human world was caused by his power. He was likely captured by the immortal gods and cast into reincarnation, ending up in this plight. Guan didn't hide anything, briefly explaining Yuan Luo's background. An Xian frowned and asked, Actions of the immortal gods? Such a wicked entity reincarnated within the Qingkuan sect. Wouldn't there be some scheme involved? Guan glanced at her and smiled. Indeed, there might be some hidden scheme, but such schemes have never ceased. If you can't see through them yourself, it means you're still not strong enough. Seeing him still able to smile, an Xian knew everything was under his control. She couldn't help but ask, Master, do you need me to do anything? Let nature take its course. Guan didn't say much more. He believed an Xian would understand his meaning. After spending so many years together, the two had developed a high level of rapport, and some things didn't need to be repeatedly explained. An Xian no longer talked about Yuan Luo, but shifted the topic to Emperor Tianhong and Zhao Rushan. I heard the Dao court plans to cultivate Zhao Rushan to become a Daoist emperor. Didn't you say a Daoist emperor must prove themselves on the path of the great Dao? Could it be that Zhao Rushan is heading to the path of the great Dao next? An Xian was very interested in the Daoist emperor, and wondered whether a Daoist emperor at the same realm could rival her immortal emperor's eye. He is destined to go and is fated to become a Daoist emperor, Guan replied. When mentioning the Daoist emperor, he couldn't help but shift his focus to the path of the great Dao, observing Ji Xiaoyu and Xiaolan. Search * the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Ji Xiaoyu had been fighting for many years, and with his destiny forming he was getting closer to becoming a Daoist emperor, while Xiaolan had also started to embark on the emperor road. After participating in the Daoist emperor's competition, their cultivation grew quickly, able to strengthen through battles. Xiaolan had already reached the divine thought true immortal realm, catching up with Tian Hao far off in the misty immortal court. Ji Xiaoyu was even assaulting the heaven-encompassing free immortal realm. And in terms of strength, he was now stronger than Yuan Songzi. After years of battling side by side, Yuan Songzi had successfully persuaded Ji Xiaoyu to join the Dao court. If she and Xiaolan succeeded, the Dao court would have two Daoist emperors, giving it the confidence to stand against the 3,000 great worlds outside the celestial spirit great world. Guan could hear the voice of Yuan Songzi's mind, feeling that his mood was far more excited than it appeared on his face. Ji Xiaoyu was cultivating and preparing for battle, and his next opponent was an unparalleled prodigy who had achieved 1,000 victories at the same realm on the path of the great Dao, the unbeatable emperor from the primordial emperor domain. The unbeatable emperor ranked among the top 5 illustrious prodigies in the primordial emperor domain, and his momentum was extremely strong. Guan had already calculated the result of this battle, and wasn't surprised. The original master of the immortal emperor's eye, the stealing heaven emperor, came from the primordial emperor domain. This person founded the stealing heaven immortal sect, even provoking the celestial court's pursuit, proving the terrifying extent of his Dao practice. The deep foundation of the primordial emperor domain was unmatched by the great thousand worlds. Master, Do you think we need to foster a Taoist emperor in Wuxia? An Xian asked expectantly. Although Wuxia wasn't a sect in the conventional sense, as the senior disciple, an Xian hoped Wuxia would grow stronger. It depends on personal goals. I don't demand it. Although a Taoist emperor is indeed powerful, the path is very difficult. Guan spoke softly, with the memory of the emperor of eternal life in him. He knew how arduous the path to becoming a Taoist emperor was. Looking at the disciples within the dojo, to be honest, he hadn't yet seen anyone with the potential to become a Taoist emperor, even Xiaolan, who relied on his covert protection while outside. If Xiaolan were to venture out alone, she would have died long ago. Moreover, he could sense that if he continued to aid Xiaolan, she would never be able to become a Taoist emperor, no matter how many times she won. The great Taoist will on the path of the great Tao is unfathomable. After listening, an Xian fell into contemplation, vaguely understanding the implication behind Gu An's words. At this moment, Gu An's fishing rod moved, and he began to reel it in with effort, his arms trembling. Watching Guan struggle as if he were immortal, an Xian covered her mouth and laughed, thinking her master truly loved to act. In a bright palace, Ji Xiaoyu sat meditating in front of a blue crystal, the crystal reflecting her silhouette. Yuan Songzi approached, stopping in front of Ji Xiaoyu, hesitating to speak. With her eyes closed, Ji Xiaoyu asked, "Speak your mind, Ting Master." Yuan Songzi took a deep breath and said, "Give up, your next opponent is unbeatable." Upon hearing this, Ji Xiaoyu opened her eyes, staring steadily at him. Yuan Songzi continued, "I've investigated. The unbeatable emperor not only achieved 1,000 victories, but he also swept through the peers in the primordial emperor domain. A Taoist emperor once fought him at the same realm, and was defeated. To defeat a Taoist emperor before stepping onto the emperor road, even if the Taoist emperor suppressed his realm, is still unbelievable." The mere thought of it filled Yuan Songzi with fear. He feared Ji Xiaoyu would not believe it, so he added, "On the path of the great Tao, everyone believes the unbeatable emperor is destined to become a Taoist emperor. Your matchup, dictated by the Taoist will, is in misfortune. Avoiding the battle might mean wasted efforts, but at least you'll live. The struggle for the Taoist emperor is no child's play. 9 out of 10 losers die. Throughout the years, many prodigies have fallen at Ji Xiaoyu's hand." Unfazed, Ji Xiaoyu asked, "Ting Master, have you ever considered that the path to becoming a Taoist emperor is cruel and cannot be filled with pushovers? If I give up this time, when I next reach this point, I will face another prodigy as formidable as the unbeatable emperor. If I always give up, what is the point of walking the path of the great Tao? To have the Taoist recognition, one must defeat the opponents selected by the Tao." These words made Yuan Songzi frown. He felt they made sense. Perhaps he had indeed underestimated the difficulty of becoming a Taoist emperor. Thinking that Xiaolan might also face an opponent like the unbeatable emperor made him suddenly feel lost. Perhaps he had acted too hastily. Right now, the Tao court may not be able to nurture a Taoist emperor. Ji Xiaoyu looked at Yuan Songzi, smiling with high spirits, and said gently, "Moreover, Ting Master, how dare you assert that I will certainly lose? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 658. The power of the Emperor Clan. The day of the duel between Ji Xiaoyu and the unbeatable emperor finally arrived, with the Tao Court's members trailing Ji Xiaoyu to a meteorite. Gazing around, the void was dim, with countless meteorites scattered across it. Above the Tao Court's party, colorful splendor surged across the void's ceiling, illuminating it without diminishing its shadowy undertone. Ji Xiaoyu stepped into the void, while the others waited on the ground. Xiaolan gazed at Ji Xiaoyu with concern. Having spent many years with him, Ji Xiaoyu had taken good care of her, even teaching her spells and divine skills. In her heart, Ji Xiaoyu was like a mentor. Knowing the power of the unbeatable emperor, how could she not worry for Ji Xiaoyu? The void was vast, silent, and oppressive. Although the unbeatable emperor had not yet appeared, this void was already filled with an immense sense of oppression. After Ji Xiaoyu distanced herself from the meteorite where the Dao court was, she stood silently in the void, waiting. A long time passed. "Huh!" A shout echoed through the void, disrupting everyone's thoughts. "Sar the Novel Fire." Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Following that shout, more shouts arose, one after another, growing louder and more imposing, as if millions were roaring in unison, shaking the heavens with overwhelming oppression. Everyone from the Dao court tensed, their gazes directed toward the depths of the void, where a red radiance appeared, rapidly expanding. Xiaolon squinted and saw an imposing figure, akin to a war god, striding out from the vast flames within the red radiance. The unbeatable emperor. He wore a dark red chain armor, with a red scarf around his waist, his trousers wide, billowing in the wind. His face was handsome but indifferent, and he wore a deep red coronet on his forehead. His long black hair danced wildly, his commanding presence threatening to shake the heavens and earth. He treaded on the red flames, moving with the grace of a dragon and a tiger, his aura seemingly distorting the void. Behind him, countless figures emerged from the red flames, each with an extraordinary aura. Although they remained silent, the deafening shouts continued to echo infinitely through the void. The Dao Court's members looked on from afar, their faces grim, their hearts in their throats. Is the primordial emperor domain really this formidable? An elder of the Dao Court muttered, his face full of shock. Yuan Songzi took a deep breath and said, "This is but one emperor clan of the primordial emperor domain. The might of the primordial emperor domain is beyond our imagination. In the great thousand world, only a few great worlds can barely compare." These words fueled further fantasies about the primordial emperor domain among the crowd. Meanwhile, the unbeatable emperor raised his right hand, fiery flames gathering in his palm, forming a long spear, several times his own length, with a massive spearhead, as if a Qilin spat out the spear blade, surrounded by a divine beast's phantom, bearing its fangs and brandishing its claws. He looked at Ji Xiaoyu from afar and said, "Are you the reincarnation Dao Emperor? Bearing the name of reincarnation, do not disappoint me." As his words fell, he thrust his spear toward Ji Xiaoyu. A fiery line suddenly shot out, seemingly splitting the entire void in two. The red flame divine beast phantom roared silently before Ji Xiaoyu, the wave of chi force blowing through her long hair, revealing her cold and perfect face. Ji Xiaoyu remained silent, raising her right hand as rolling gray mist emerged from her palm, transforming into dragons coiling around her. An exceptional showdown between Taoist emperors was about to erupt. Yuan Songzi watched the unbeatable emperor, his eyes filled with fear. He could sense that the unbeatable emperor was still at the profound Yuan-free immortal realm. Yet his aura gave Yuan Songzi, who was at the realm's perfection, a horrifying sense of impending annihilation. He felt that the unbeatable emperor could kill him with a single stroke. This filled him with dread for the unbeatable emperor, and increased his concern for Ji Xiaoyu. At the Qianquan sect's main city, around the gigantic battle platform, hundreds of thousands of disciples stood on the stone steps, observing the fight on the platform. Guan and his drinking buddies were also there, while an Xian was in the distance, sitting with the Qianquan sect's upper echelons. An Xian maintained a poised demeanor, not looking at Guan, but dispassionately overlooking the combat on the platform. Yi Qingshan put down his teacup, turned to an Xian and asked with a smile, "Senior, how is this child's talent?" Yuan Luo had just transformed into a divinity transformation realm, and was battling a profound heart realm disciple. Between the divinity transformation realm and the profound heart realm lay the void crossing and fusion realms, and the Qianquan sect was not a mundane sect of the past. Joining without Nervan-level cultivation showed one was young and exceptionally talented. Even two great realms lower, Yuan Luo still had the upper hand. His talent was evident to the naked eye, even astonishing those disciples at the immortal realm. An Xian replied, "Indeed impressive, able to contend with any peerless genius in the world." Yuan Luo appeared only 16 or 17, still youthful, yet with one palm he severely injured his opponent, rendering them unable to fight. Floating in the air, he looked up to the pavilion where the upper echelons were and loudly declared, "I want to challenge a higher realm." His words caused an uproar among the crowd. The observing disciples had not expected Yuan Luo to continue challenging, increasing their anticipation of him. Grand Elder Lin Chuan signaled with his hand, and a Mahayana realm disciple stepped onto the platform with a sword. Yuan Luo bowed to the opponent, then initiated the attack first. "This kid is so formidable. No wonder the higher-ups are promoting him so much," remarked one of Gu An's friends, prompting discussions among the other friends. Guan was not surprised by Yuan Luo's performance. This child's mana was bound by his realm, yet his chi blood force was overly vigorous. Though appearing at the divinity transformation realm, he in fact rivaled Nirvana. While watching the spectacle, Guan was also focused on Ji Xiaoyu's duel on the path of the Great Tao. Ji Xiaoyu was not a match for the unbeatable emperor. Despite giving it her all, she was unable to defeat him yet managed to wound him, surprising the unbeatable emperor and the great powers of the primordial emperor domain. Guan would not assist Ji Xiaoyu to defeat the unbeatable emperor, as it held no significance. His goal was to ensure Ji Xiaoyu survived. In the final clash of divine skills, Ji Xiaoyu was defeated, her body obliterated, leaving only her soul, barely alive. At this point, the destiny she accumulated on the path of the Great Tao flowed entirely to the unbeatable emperor. "You are stronger than my previous opponents, and your understanding of the path of reincarnation is quite impressive. I think I won't forget you for a long time in the future." The voice of the unbeatable emperor resonated through the void, still fierce in aura, with the wounds on his cheeks making him even more imposing. Holding his long spear, he approached Ji Xiaoyu's soul. All around, the void was filled with smoke and clouds, remnants of shattered meteorites. Seeing the unbeatable emperor about to annihilate her completely, Yuan Songzi hurriedly flew in front of Ji Xiaoyu, urgently saying, "You've already won, so why push it to the extreme? Please grant her a chance to live." The unbeatable emperor slightly lifted his chin, looking down at Yuan Songzi with contempt, saying, "Since when did worms dare to obstruct a Taoist emperor?" In the distance, the great powers of the primordial emperor domain stepped forward, their boundless might suffocating Yuan Songzi. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 659. A palm transcending the Great Tao. The words of the unbeatable emperor were like a series of thunderclaps, echoing endlessly, causing the cultivators of the Tao court to change their expressions drastically. Although they feared the unbeatable emperor, hearing his words still made them feel a great sense of humiliation. For Yuan Songzi was the master of the Tao court. Xiaolon gritted her teeth, wanting to rush over and fight alongside Yuan Songzi, but was stopped by a female elder. "Don't act impulsively, don't burden the Ting master," the female elder said in a deep voice, her gaze towards Yuan Songzi revealing her uncontrollable unease. Yuan Songzi was insulted by the unbeatable emperor, but didn't get angry. Following the unbeatable emperor's words, he said, "Since you consider us insects, why go to the trouble of stomping on insects? Not to mention the imperial clan behind. Even if all of them attacked together, they would still not be a match for the unbeatable emperor alone. On this path of the Great Tao, a prodigy not only needs personal strength, but also a sufficiently strong force to support them." The beautiful dream that Yuan Songzi had was completely shattered at this moment. Ji Xiaoyu and Xiaolon lacked the talent, and the Tao court didn't have the foundation to escort a Taoist emperor. Even if humiliated, he had to protect Ji Xiaoyu as much as possible because he knew very well that if they did nothing, they would also be doomed. The Tao intent of the great powers of the imperial clan had already sealed this void, leaving them with no escape. The unbeatable emperor's lips curled into a contemptuous smile as he said, "I am fulfilling her, losing on the emperor road, damaging the Tao heart, and leading a life of nothing but defeat. What meaning does it have?" His footsteps did not pause, and with each step, the killing intent grew stronger. When his words fell, the pressure brought onto Yuan Songzi reached its peak, making him unable to speak, only able to look at him in terror. "Spare them, I am willing to die." Ji Xiaoyu's voice came from behind Yuan Songzi, calm, without a trace of anger or fear. The unbeatable emperor's smile became wild, and he raised the spear in his hand, pointing its tip at Yuan Songzi. Yet his gaze fixed on Ji Xiaoyu. He sneered disdainfully. It's over. You're all doomed. Setting foot on the emperor road, you should have been mentally prepared. If not, then learn the lesson of arrogance. His right hand suddenly loosened. Boom! The long spear in his hand burst forth with a terrifying momentum, as if carrying a storm, unstoppably killing towards Yuan Songzi. Everything happened too fast. Even though both parties were of the same realm, Yuan Songzi had no time to react, only able to widen his eyes. When the spear stopped in front of him, his whole body froze, feeling as if even his divine soul was fixed in place, unable to move. He hadn't experienced such despair in a long time. Faced with the divine spear, he truly felt he was going to die, and there was no hope for reincarnation. His mind blank, he instinctively looked at the unbeatable emperor, discovering that he frowned. The cultivators of the Dao court were extremely tense, seeing Yuan Songzi not dead. Hope ignited in their hearts, thinking that the unbeatable emperor temporarily changed his mind. Everyone's gaze was fixed on the unbeatable emperor. The unbeatable emperor frowned deeply, glancing in another direction. He yelled in a deep voice, "What master from where is interfering with me?" A master? The Dao court side was all bewildered, realizing the unbeatable emperor was not sparing them out of mercy, but that there was other assistance. Compared to the extremely arrogant unbeatable emperor, they preferred the unknown helper. The cultivators of the Dao court were all excited, trying hard to restrain their emotions, not daring to breathe even a single breath. Xiaolon also felt surprised, her heart filled with curiosity. Who would rescue them at this moment? Let people off when you can, besides, you have no enmity. A hoarse voice echoed through the void, causing displeasure to flash in the unbeatable emperor's eyes. When Ji Xiaoyu heard this voice, her eyes dimmed. Although he had changed his voice, she immediately knew who the owner of the voice was. She didn't want that person to see her so embarrassed. The unbeatable emperor did not respond, but the great powers of the imperial clan could not remain silent. Does fellow Taoist want to challenge the imperial clan? If fellow Taoist is this girl's support, why not appear earlier? Her destiny should not be like this. If passing by, why entangle in this karma? If wanting to save them, state your relationship, don't hide in the dark. With such cultivation, do you not know the rules of the Emperor Road? The dignified voices rose one after another, all very assertive, seemingly not taking the one who intervened seriously. Far off in the Qiankuan sect, Guan sighed. How many years has it been? It's rare to encounter someone so stubborn. Sir, the novel fire. Net ** website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan, through deduction, knew the reason they wanted to eradicate was to prevent the secrets of the unbeatable emperor's divine skills from being exposed, leaving no threat for the unbeatable emperor's future. The reason was sufficient, but having intervened, would he still fight to the death for this reason? Ultimately, it's still too arrogant. Guan could see at a glance the source of this imperial clan. The strongest was no more than a Miaozhen Daluo immortal, and that was an ancient monster hidden for unknown billions of years. Having thought that, Guan's gaze turned cold. Just then, a strand of someone's hair drifted in front of him. He raised his hand and waved, destroying the hair. The surrounding observing disciples were too excited, all discussing Yuan Luo's performance, and even his drinking and meat friends on his left and right didn't notice his actions. However, Guan's wave was not casual. The mana of a Dao Extreme Daluo immortal passed through the celestial spirit great world in an incredible manner, entered the path of the great Dao, then crossed layers of cosmic planes, arriving at the void where Ji Xiaoyu, Xiaolon, and the others were. The questions from the imperial clan had not yet fallen, and the unbeatable emperor was still staring intensely at Ji Xiaoyu. The Dao court side was nervously waiting, with Yuan Songzi unable to recover from the earlier shocking experience. Suddenly, the entire void became bright, darkness was banished, and everyone instinctively looked in one direction, only to see deep within the void. It was as bright as daylight, with an incomparably majestic golden giant hand coming at them. Facing this golden giant hand, Any existence appeared insignificant. The unbeatable emperor's face changed drastically. He was horrified to find himself unable to move. Not only him, but the other great powers of the imperial clan were the same, all seemingly petrified, dumbly watching the golden giant hand approach. Ji Xiaoyu's pupils widened, while Yuan Songzi and the cultivators of the Dao court were left open-mouthed. They couldn't move either, only able to see the golden giant hand getting closer and closer. As the hand neared, the outline of the golden giant hand could not fit into their vision. In front of such a giant hand, they only felt shock, their emotions indescribable. Under their gaze, the golden giant hand seemed to replace the void, lightly waving towards them. The wind from its palm blew, turning the great powers of the imperial clan directly into ashes. Even the unbeatable emperor gradually perished, his expression before death one of disbelief, seemingly not expecting such an end for himself. After waving the hand to annihilate the imperial clan, the golden giant hand became illusory, and the strong light it emitted gradually weakened. Yet the entire void remained in silence. All the cultivators of the Dao court still held expressions of astonishment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 660. A lifespan of 10 trillion years. As the Emperor clan and the unbeatable emperor vanished into ash, the golden giant hand dissipated, the void gradually returning to dimness, while the people of the Dao court remained in silence, unable to awaken from their shock. The pure-hearted Xiaolan was the first to break the silence. She couldn't help but ask, what realm was the senior who acted just now? The legendary heaven-encompassing free immortal? The cultivators of the Dao court awoke one after another, starting to bow in all directions, expressing gratitude to the person who intervened. Yuan Songzi also came to his senses, loudly exclaimed, I am Yuan Songzi from the Dao court of the celestial spirit great world, grateful for the senior's assistance. I wonder what can we do for the senior? There is no such thing as a favor for no reason. Yuan Songzi reflected on his connections, unable to think of such a powerful entity. He could only ponder what the other party might want them to do. However, no one answered him. Ji Xiaoyu remained silent, sat down cross-legged on the spot, and began restoring her body. Meanwhile, in the Qiankuan sect, Guan was occupied by a series of prompts in his vision. To deal with the Emperor clan, he used his own mana, not relying on avatars, thus he could seize life force, especially since the Emperor clan lacks celestial court destiny. Successfully captured 20,239,008,276 years of life from Emperor Changyuan. Early stage of innate golden immortal realm. Successfully captured 809,244,623 years of life from Gudong. Late stage of heaven-encompassing free immortal realm. Successfully captured 209,872,307,762 years of life from Emperor Hantian. Middle stage of Hengtian golden immortal realm. Successfully captured 70,982,763 years of life from Qinli. Perfect innate golden immortal realm. Successfully captured 249,827,206,383 years of life from Jizun, middle stage of Taiqing golden immortal realm. Looking at his skyrocketing lifespan, Guan felt agitated. No wonder those with reincarnation bodies couldn't resist the temptation of seizing life force. He now felt an impulse to go on a killing spree, but he knew he mustn't do that. Excessive slaughter and rapidly growing stronger would attract powerful entities far beyond his cultivation level to intervene. This time, attacking the Emperor clan was justified and wouldn't attract attention from beings surpassing Dao Extreme Dao Yuo Immortal. The lifespans of these powerful figures within the Emperor clan varied. The strongest Taiqing Golden Immortal provided him with a lifespan not much higher than the Hengtian Golden Immortal. Yet overall, it still yielded him substantial gains. The Emperor clan only had one Taiqing Golden Immortal protecting the unbeatable Emperor. Most others were heaven-encompassing free immortals and innate golden immortals, a total of several hundred. Your lifespan has surpassed 10 trillion years for the first time, Starting a random lifespan function upgrade. Your life expectancy prediction function has been upgraded. Life expectancy prediction upgrade successful. Life expectancy prediction automatically detects causality. When a living being bears hostility toward your true self or clones, a prompt will appear. It automatically deduces causality. If someone's causality conflicts with yours, a prompt will appear. Using this prompt does not consume lifespan, but conducting a lifespan detection on the opponent does. Witnessing the prompts before him, Guan's eyes changed. Unlike the previous life expectancy prediction, this time the function covers his clones and can deduce causality. Deducing causality is quite domineering, implying potential enemies could be deduced. This function has both pros and cons. The advantage is identifying more enemies. The downside is the pressure of knowing enemies in advance, while the enemies remain oblivious and carefree. Of course, the most important thing is that his lifespan has broken through 10 trillion years. He can proceed to a breakthrough. Guan's mood became joyful. Once all the lifespan prompts ceased, he brought up the attribute panel for viewing. Name: Guan, lifespan, 172,971/14, 073, 593, 224, 087. Physique: primordial Dao creation body. Cultivation level: middle stage of Dao extreme Daoyuo immortal realm. It's no wonder the Emperor clan. Guan acknowledged the Emperor clan behind the unbeatable Emperor as indeed powerful. Tianqian Emperor will form a causal hatred with you, destined to become your enemy. Would you like to perform a lifespan detection on them? Sir the Ovalfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Ancestor Chuzi will form a causal hatred with you, destined to become your enemy. Would you like to perform a lifespan detection on them? Hanlong will form a causal hatred with you, destined to become your enemy. Would you like to perform a lifespan detection on them? Another series of prompts emerged wildly, causing Guan's eyelids to twitch. Indeed, the new life expectancy prediction is a double-edged sword. With so many potential enemies, if he checked each one, could his 14 trillion years of lifespan endure? Guan chose one by one for lifespan detection. Upon selecting a name, the lifespan years to be consumed would display. Then he would confirm. He had no intention of consuming lifespan, but from the lifespan consumption prompts, he could gauge the strength of the enemies. The Emperor clan's greatest support was one major realm lower than him, so it wasn't worth using lifespan detection on them. Even so, this function could still reveal the Emperor clan's foundation to him. For a period following this, lifespan prompts repeatedly appeared. When Yuan Luo defeated the Mahayana realm disciple to the cheering of the audience, the prompts before him continued. The connections behind the unbeatable emperor were truly astonishing. Guan was secretly alarmed. Qiankuan sect hierarch Yi Qingshan began to praise Yuan Luo, then spoke of the sect's millennial grand plan ahead, stirring the disciples' emotions. After the gathering, Guan politely declined invitations from companions for food and drink and left alone. On the other side, Ji Xiaoyu had restored her body, though her aura was weak and her cultivation level somewhat diminished. The cultivators of the Dao court surrounded her, their faces full of concern. Xiaolong couldn't help but ask, "Senior, how do you feel? How can we assist?" The pale-faced Ji Xiaoyu opened her eyes and said, "I am unscathed, but my path to the Daoist emperor has been completely severed. Unbeatable emperor's divine skills are indeed tyrannical. It will take me many years to completely dispel the power of his divine skills." Everyone felt their hearts sink, unable to accept it. They had traversed the path of the great Dao together for so many years. Albeit thinking about the possibility of Ji Xiaoyu's defeat, seeing her fall in such a manner filled them with a sense of helplessness. The Emperor Road is indeed not something they can contend for. Yuan Songzi took a deep breath and said, "Return to the Dao court to recuperate." He looked at Xiaolong and said, "You have seen it too, the contention of the Emperor Road is fraught with peril. Before you are defeated, why not stop for now?" Xiaolong nodded lightly at his words. She too realized the vast gap between herself and Emperor Road geniuses, and felt a bit worried for her brother Gu after being away from the celestial spirit great world for so many years. An elder couldn't help but sigh and said, "I wonder what kind of deity that senior was, to directly annihilate the emperor clan to save us. The path of the great Tao is indeed one mountain higher than the other, heavens beyond heavens." Recalling the fierce battle earlier, they still felt a chilling thrill and an inexplicable excitement. In my opinion, the emperor clan brought it upon themselves, being overly arrogant. That senior perhaps didn't intend to destroy the emperor clan, but these fellows gave no leeway and were too arrogant. A Tao court genius couldn't help but say, filled with admiration and fervor, "The golden giant hand will be the goal of his life pursuit from now on. Even if he cannot reach that realm in this life, he will cultivate in that direction. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 661. Perfection Realm. The feelings of the celestial spirit god. After lamenting for a while, Yuan Songzi led everyone back to the celestial spirit great world. The journey ahead was long, and they dared not let down their guard. Soon, everyone fell into silence, each with their own thoughts. The image of that golden giant hand lingered in their minds, unable to dissipate. Even Xiaolan was reminiscing. This kind of power was too incredible. She must tell Brother Gu about it when she returns. Thinking of this, Xiaolan's mind was filled with the sound and appearance of Guan, eager to return home. On the other side, Guan left the Qiankuan sect and went to an unoccupied mountain forest. At this moment, prompts kept appearing before his eyes. The number had already exceeded 1,000,000. Guan suspected that it wasn't just the unbeatable emperor's karmic enemies, but possibly other types of karma as well. He patiently waited. Once all prompts were gone, he would find a place to break through all at once, reaching the perfect Taoist Great Luo immortal realm. During the waiting process, he was also deducing. He could confirm that the lifespan predictive ability was stronger than his, but how much stronger was yet to be determined. Many names in the prompts were temporarily untraceable, because there was no direct causality. How many people with the same name and surname existed? Even with lifespan prediction, Guan did not intend to eliminate his enemies in advance, because karma could change. Just because someone was destined to be an enemy didn't mean he should start a killing spree. The new lifespan prediction served more as a warning. The more enemies there were, the more cautious he had to be. The higher the realm, the easier it was to lose oneself in one's own power, believing one could do anything. Although Guan was wary of many beings, he did not feel that his current life was suffocating. On the contrary, he felt happy with his life. He preferred playing in the human world within his own small domain to fighting. After waiting for an hour, no more prompts appeared, leaving Guan feeling helpless. His karmic enemies numbered in the tens of millions, which was absurd. However, judging by the lifespan consumption, not many posed a threat to him. Guan immediately performed the lifespan breakthrough. Even though he could go to the endless Tao mountain, he feared leaving traces and being discovered by unknown entities, so he cautiously used the lifespan breakthrough. After all, a round trip only cost 20 billion years of lifespan, which was a drizzle for him now. Safety was most important. Out of 9 prompts, Guan chose to go to the Hongming Great World for his breakthrough, and his figure disappeared into the forest. As time passed, the sun gradually set. Night fell. The forest was still, echoing with the croaking of frogs. Guan's figure reappeared. He was now perfect in the Taoist Great Luo immortal realm, having consumed a total of 40 trillion years of lifespan for this breakthrough. Thanks to the Emperor clan, even with such a loss of lifespan, Guan still had 100 trillion left. Next, he could begin to endure for 1 trillion lifetimes. Guan did not intend to return to the Taoist field of the beginningless, but rather to take a journey through the human world. Having achieved a breakthrough with difficulty, he naturally had to indulge. With the dim night, the forest was silent, the moonlight filtering through the gaps in the leaves, elongating Guan's shadow. He walked while contemplating. Above the Tao extreme Daoyuo immortal, what realm was there? After the Tao court and various major sects suppressed the internal turmoil, the dawn of peace in the world appeared. 1,000 years later, the human world returned to peace. The Emperor Tianhong, renowned and praised by the world, came to the vicinity of the Taoist field of the beginningless. In the forest where he had once knelt for tens of thousands of years, he gazed at the unchanging environment with a look of reflection on his face. After fighting in the mortal world for so many years and returning now, he finally understood what the supporting Tao sword venerable meant. He had gained immense fame, and even though he had left the Tao court, many major sects sought to recruit him. He could easily enjoy all the pleasures of the human world, and before returning he did struggle with it. But more than temporary pleasure, he wanted to pursue the great Tao. He stood in front of the stream, waiting, looking back on the events of these years and those occasional fragments of memory. After waiting for an hour, Zin's figure appeared on the opposite bank, startling the Emperor Tianhong, who quickly saluted her. An Exian with a cold expression said, "Come with me. From now on you are a Wuxia disciple, and I am your senior sister." "Thank you, senior sister." The Emperor Tianhong responded, feeling excited. After so many years, he had finally become a disciple of the supporting Tao sword venerable. An Exian turned and left, with the Emperor Tianhong hurriedly following. Along the way, an Exian began to introduce the situation within the beginningless. She explained which disciples were there, and what rules to pay attention to. And Emperor Tianhong listened attentively, not daring to neglect. When they stepped into the Taoist field of the beginningless, Emperor Tianhong clearly felt the nature's spiritual energy was suddenly different, even though the surroundings hadn't changed much. It was only when he emerged from the forest that he saw an incredibly beautiful mountain forest, a rare sight in the world. Every mountain was planted with various spirit flowers and spirit grass, creating a mesmerizing and beautiful spectacle that no painting could capture. An Exian ambled along the mountain path, without flying, compelling Emperor Tianhong to follow her pace. "Senior sister, is the teacher in the dojo?" Emperor Tianhong cautiously asked. An Exian, without looking back, said, "He's not here, but at the latest, you'll meet him the day after tomorrow." "Is there something urgent? Will I delay him?" Emperor Tianhong asked nervously. Such a great power as the supporting Tao sword venerable must be occupied with unimaginable important matters. In outer heaven debating the Tao with great powers? Or exploring the void of the great Tao? He has no urgent matters, just playing in the human world. Perhaps in past years, you encountered him, but he transformed into an unremarkable mortal, and you didn't recognize him. And Zin's answer surprised Emperor Tianhong greatly, raising concerns in his heart. He had to recall if he had done anything wrong in front of others. While Emperor Tianhong reflected on himself, Guan wasn't wandering in the human world. He was drinking with the celestial spirit god at the world gate. The two sat at a small table, with spiritual wine and some human world dishes placed on it. The celestial spirit god had long given up mortal desires, but since Guan invited him, he graciously accepted. After drinking a bowl of wine, the celestial spirit god took the initiative to say, "Tianhao should have taken root in the misty immortal court by now. I can sense his cultivation level rising rapidly lately." Guan smiled. He indeed is doing quite well. After reaching the perfect Taoist Great Luo immortal realm, Guan could precisely calculate the karma of the misty immortal court. The court's destiny couldn't obstruct his gaze. He could see everything within and knew Tianhao had gained the recognition of an immortal mansion, fully integrating into the misty immortal court. The celestial spirit god nodded and then asked, "How do you intend to deal with the Tai immortal monarch and the 72 immortals of Jindong? Immortal gods can't be completely eradicated. One day, they will return to the celestial court or be discovered missing by it." Guan took the wooden token from his waist and placed it on the small table, jokingly saying, "After wearing it for so many years, I'm really not used to it. As for the Tai immortal monarch, let him continue to sink in the suffering of reincarnation. I will indeed spare them before the celestial court discovers them, but until then, I'll make them suffer a little." Even though it wasn't the first time Jindong's 72 immortals had been turned into wooden plaques, the celestial spirit god still felt amazed. Immortal gods were so fragile in Guan's hands. Sir the Ovalfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Even having pledged allegiance to Guan, he still didn't know Guan's cultivation level. The human world has already seen other immortal gods and chaos evil demons appearing. If this goes on, it will certainly lead to catastrophe. As a celestial god, how do you think I should get through this calamity? Guan asked the celestial spirit god. Perhaps it was an illusion, but although Guan sought advice, the celestial spirit god felt he wasn't that fearful of the celestial court. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 662. The difference between immortal gods. The celestial spirit god contemplated for a long time before saying, "There are only two paths. 1. You accumulate merit, benefit all living beings, touch the heavens, thus attracting the attention of the celestial court, and be rewarded with a place in the immortal class. 2. You abandon this great thousand world. Though the celestial court is strong, the great Tao is vast. Ultimately, there are places beyond the celestial court's reach. On the celestial court's bounty list, there are many powerful beings who have yet to be brought to justice." His answer left Guan somewhat dissatisfied. In short, isn't this just a choice between submission and escape? The celestial spirit god seemed to sense Guan's displeasure and continued, "Some of the celestial court's actions do indeed overlook all living beings, but the celestial court is not evil. In fact, the 3,000 great worlds still exist, and immortal gods rarely present themselves. This alone suffices to prove the severity of the celestial rules. Within any force in the world, there is good and bad, and there is no absolutely fair rule or order. The internal struggles within the celestial court are also significant, and the celestial emperor, who stands lofty, has been in seclusion for years, rarely emerging into the world. Over the endless years, countless purges have occurred in the celestial court. But no matter how the changes unfold, immortal gods will ultimately be ensnared by their interests. When longevity is no longer a luxury, besides power, all that remains for them is status. Actually joining the celestial court is not as unbearable as you imagine, nor will you lose so-called freedom. As long as you fulfill your duties, immortal gods can have plenty of personal time." Though he pledged allegiance to Guan, it was an act of desperation. In his heart he wished for Guan to join the celestial court. With Guan's abilities, rising to a celestial Tao immortal position higher than that of an immortal monarch in the future would be no difficult task. Guan smiled and said, "I do not reject the celestial court. I am just cautious about the unknown. After all, even you are unsure where exactly the celestial court is, or how deep its waters run." The celestial spirit god couldn't help but sigh upon hearing this. In the celestial spirit great world, he was a high and mighty celestial god. Yet he had never even been to the celestial court, and was part of its lower echelons, an unnoticed existence. Even if he violated the celestial rules or neglected his duties, the celestial court wouldn't deal with him in a short time, because the celestial court simply didn't care about him. With this in mind, the celestial spirit god also felt frustrated. He thought he took the wrong path back then. If he hadn't been obsessed with that immortal palace treasure, how would he have ended up in such a situation? Guan asked with a smile. "It said your talent is outstanding even among celestial gods. Don't you have any plans? Do you want to remain a celestial god forever?" The celestial spirit god shook his head and said, "Those who become celestial gods are all of extraordinary talent. Even if I give my best in cultivation, ascending would still require an exceedingly long time. I have a junior who is currently participating in the selection for celestial gods, cultivating in a celestial army. The celestial god is called Celestial Calming God. Do you know him?" Guan thought of Zhang Buku and thus asked. The celestial spirit god nodded and said, "I know him. He counts as my senior. He serves the Huangfeng immortal monarch, and among celestial gods, he holds a relatively high position. The lowest in rank are celestial gods like us guarding a great thousand world, whereas Celestial Calming God isn't confined to one place. He is akin to a god of destruction, and his range of activity covers the 3,000 great worlds. Mentioning celestial calming god, the celestial spirit god's tone carried envy. Guan gained a clearer understanding of celestial gods. Even among immortal gods of the same rank, the extent of power varies. The celestial spirit god opened up, starting to recount his experiences serving the celestial court. Memories related to the celestial court couldn't be confiscated, so Guan was also curious about his past. The universe was silent, distant stars dotting the sky. Guan and the celestial spirit god, drinking before the world gate, seemed unaffected by time as bowl followed bowl, perhaps a metaphor for the passage of time and the changes in the world. In times of peace, time passes more swiftly. In the blink of an eye, another 10,000 years have passed. The members of Dao Court who had ventured onto the path of the great Dao finally returned, causing a commotion in the entire sect. Xiao Lan and Yuan Songzi stood on high clouds, looking at the vast sea of people below, smiles on their faces. They finally returned. Returning from the path of the great Dao was an equally long journey, with endless hardships, and only at this moment could their tense minds relax. Seeing that Dao Court remained prosperous, the great cultivators of the Dao Court were full of relief in their eyes. CTH Novelfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Ting Master, Elders, am leaving first. My brother Gu is still waiting for me. Xiao Lan said this and then turned to leave, disappearing into the ends of the heavens and earth in the blink of an eye. Ji Xiaoyu's expression became unnatural upon hearing her words, but she said nothing. A female elder shook her head and laughed. This girl is still as infatuated with her lover as ever. Even after traveling the path of the great Dao and broadening her horizons, she remains true to her original heart. The other elders also revealed kind smiles. They all doted on Xiao Lan, feeling she was like a child who never outgrew. Yuan Songzi's gaze landed on a figure below, who stood out with overwhelming aura, attracting attention even while amidst the crowd. Zhao Rushan. To have grown to such an extent, it seems a lot has happened over these years. Yuan Songzi mused. Ji Xiaoyu's failure on the Emperor Road, and Xiao Lan's pause, made him realize that the Daoist emperor was still far from Dao Court. Looking again at Zhao Rushan, he felt this person wasn't so remarkable, at least far inferior to the unbeatable emperor. Where exactly could the seed of a Daoist emperor be found? Yuan Songzi's thoughts drifted, his heart feeling a bit melancholy. Meanwhile, Guan had already returned to Xiao Lan's grotto heaven to wait, noticing Ji Xiaoyu's expression. He pondered how to help her. Failing on the Emperor Road, her cultivation level regressed, and her Dao heart was damaged. It was his first time hearing Ji Xiaoyu's heart sound so lonely. He could feel Ji Xiaoyu's pride, and precisely because of it, he felt this matter was difficult to handle. If only he could, like creating a Dao treasure, carve a path of destiny no less than that of a Daoist emperor. With this thought, Guan's eyes lit up. This direction seems promising. Since he has ample time and doesn't need to engage in daily arduous cultivation, he might as well study different paths of destiny. Guan began to contemplate in this direction. He first needed to understand the essence of a Daoist emperor. Not long after, Xiao Lan's presence burst into the grotto heaven. She appeared out of nowhere before Guan and hugged him tightly. Wonderful, Brother Gu, you're still here. Xiao Lan held on to Guan tightly, speaking with delight. She was so overjoyed she even shed tears. Don't be fooled by her carefree demeanor usually. In reality, she always worried in her heart. She was away for too long, and was truly afraid of changes occurring in Dao Court, or Guan reaching his twilight years. What are you saying? My talent may not be as great as yours, but am also diligently cultivating. Am not that easy to die. Guan humphed, gently patting her back, feeling a little touched himself. In retrospect, he had countless separations with his junior sister throughout this life. He could foresee the future, but his junior sister could not. Worrying for the future was normal. It seems showing off some of his own strength appropriately, revealing a bit of the iceberg to leave her in awe, is necessary. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 663. Blaze a new trail after a long separation. Their reunion was fiery with passion. Guan and Xiaolon entwined for half a month before they finally parted. Xiaolon continued her cultivation, while Guan switched avatars. His true self went to various places to harvest matured medicinal herbs. After he was done, he returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless. Walking along the mountain path, Guan began contemplating the matter of creating a path. To create a path similar to that of a Taoist emperor. A Taoist emperor is in existence aided by great Tao destiny. In the same realm, a Taoist emperor's power of the great Tao is stronger, and they can also command the great Tao of the present environment to fight on their behalf. This gives Taoist emperors the ability to fight beyond their realm, making them invincible within the same realm. There are 3,000 great Taos. Different Taos can cultivate different Taoist emperors. On the path of the great Tao, cultivators competing for the destiny of a Taoist emperor can devour the great Tao destiny of their competitors, thus enhancing their own destiny, and transform the destiny of different Taos into their own without changing the essence of their own Tao. This suggests that there may be some rules judging the Taoist emperors. If a Taoist emperor relies on the power of the Tao, wouldn't allowing others to rely on their own power be considered a way out? As this thought emerged, countless ideas burst forth in Guan's mind. He suddenly thought that the celestial court could also be such an existence. The heavenly court immortals leverage celestial Tao destiny, fundamentally similar to Taoist emperors, albeit the immortal gods are stronger. Could it be that the so-called celestial Tao was also created by an extremely powerful existence? Guan's imagination ran wild, and he decided to test such an approach. To transform his own power into a cultivation system for Ji Xiaoyu to use. Providing such a method is not difficult, and can be transmitted through the path of cause and effect. But mere borrowing pales in comparison to the Taoist emperors and the heavenly court immortals. Upon acquiring great Tao destiny, a Taoist emperor's cultivation speed increases, and the heavenly court immortals can rely on celestial Tao destiny to attain immortality. Guan felt that to successfully create this, it would take a very long time. He did not feel discouraged by this. Instead, he was full of anticipation. Things that can be achieved easily are not worth expecting. A long time passed. Guan returned to his courtyard, and besides Shenzhen, an Xian and Emperor Tianhong were also present. The two were discussing something, and upon seeing Guan, they immediately saluted. Master, Yuan Luo offended Zhao Rushan at the Tao Court's Genius Conference. Yi Qingshan fears for his premature death, and wishes to send him to Wuxia for tempering. What do you think? An Xian was the first to speak. Guan shook his head and said, The beginningless is not a place for fostering layabouts, and that disciple named Yuan Luo does not wish to train here. Upon hearing that Yi Qingshan wanted to send him to the beginningless, Yuan Luo not only resisted but also flew into a rage. In his view, the sect felt he would be killed by Zhao Rushan, which humiliated him, and he vowed to annihilate Zhao Rushan. The enmity between Yuan Luo and Zhao Rushan was not complex. At the Genius Conference, Yuan Luo shone brilliantly, and Zhao Rushan tried to recruit him, but his words implied threats, which displeased Yuan Luo. The two clashed, and with his fiery temper, he even took the initiative to strike Zhao Rushan. One must know that Zhao Rushan is currently a chief disciple of the Tao Court, and barring accidents, he will become the next master of the Tao Court. Even though the Tao Court said nothing, offending the chief disciple of the Tao Court put tremendous pressure on the Qiankuan sect. Upon hearing Guan's words, an Xian did not say much more. She vanished on the spot to negotiate with the Qiankuan sect. Master, I accompanied senior sister to the Qiankuan sect yesterday, and met that genius named Yuan Luo. I feel he. Emperor Tianhong hesitated to continue. Guan walked to the artifact refining cauldron, observing the Tao treasure inside, and casually asked, He's the reincarnation of a chaos evil demon, right? Emperor Tianhong's eyes widened in astonishment. You know? The things Guan said to Shenzhen and an Xian were not spread to other disciples, so the true identity of Yuan Luo had not been revealed. Even though he had joined the Taoist field of the beginningless for thousands of years, Emperor Tianhong still did not know that Guan was aware of this matter. After all, even you, as a heavenly court immortal, have been reincarnated. One more chaos evil demon isn't surprising, Guan said with a gentle laugh. Emperor Tianhong fell silent. He gradually awakened part of his past life's memories, knowing that he had an illustrious background in his previous life. He had confessed this to Guan, who fortunately didn't mind. Emperor Tianhong is the reincarnation of a heavenly court star monarch, whose cultivation level should have been in the Taiqing Golden Immortal Realm in his previous life. Although I don't understand why this world always attracts so many outer heaven existences, as your master, I do not wish to partake in the karma. If one day you wish to return, your master will not stop you. Guan's words deeply moved Emperor Tianhong, and he quickly said, I won't go back. Silly disciple, once you fully awaken your past lives' memories, you'll know you'll definitely go back. Guan laughed, knowing well that Emperor Tianhong would not betray his information to the heavenly court. Among the Wuxia disciples, even in Xian, no one truly knew how powerful he was, which divine skills he commanded, or even which great daos he cultivated. If Emperor Tianhong could become a channel for him to express goodwill towards the heavenly court, that would be a welcome outcome. He bore no grudge against the celestial court, nor did he wish to create one. The conflicts with the immortal gods were out of necessity. Emperor Tianhong remained silent. Listening to his master's words, he realized he truly could not rashly make promises. By the way, Tianhong, do you want to become a Taoist emperor? Guan suddenly asked. Upon hearing this, Emperor Tianhong quickly said, I don't want to. I just want to cultivate with master. He hailed from the Tao court, naturally knowing about the Taoist emperor. Coupled with some memory fragments, he knew Taoist emperors to be very powerful, but he preferred to cultivate alongside Guan. Intuition told him that Guan was his greatest opportunity. Guan turned to look at him and asked with a smile, if I open up a path similar to that of a Taoist emperor, would you be willing to step into it? Sarch * the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Emperor Tianhong's eyes widened with excitement. Of course I would. If you pave such a path, master, I am willing to be the trailblazer. Shenzhen, standing to the side, added, if you're truly going to open up a new path of cultivation, then I also want to join. She had faith not in the immortal gods nor the great Tao, but in Guan. Guan shook his head slightly and said, it's just a concept. Whether it will succeed is still uncertain. Despite his words, both Emperor Tianhong and Shenzhen were already beginning to dream. In a quiet palace, Ji Xiaoyu sat cross-legged on a prayer mat, cultivating. However, her brows were tightly furrowed, as if she was enduring pain. Suddenly, she opened her eyes wide and spat out a blood arrow. Her face turned pale, and her entire aura collapsed. Despair filled her eyes. Her cultivation level was dropping again. If this continued, she might fall back to the Taoist collection Freedom Immortal Realm, or even drop to the mortal realm. She couldn't tell if it was backlash from the Emperor Road, or if the unbeatable Emperor's divine skills were still tormenting her. What kind of divine skill is this, that even the slightest leak of breath can make me lose? Is it possible he wants to conceal this divine skill by eradicating everything? Ji Xiaoyu fell into contemplation, recalling the divine skills used by the unbeatable Emperor, which sent shivers down her spine. It was an aura of utmost evil. At this moment, a terrifying pressure enveloped the palace, causing her expression to change dramatically. She looked up to see a cloud of dreadful black gas appearing on the dim ceiling, within which a pair of terrifying eyes opened. The eyes were purple, resembling a pair of snake eyes, staring down at her. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 664. The strongest power. These eyes. Ji Xiaoyu felt a chill run down her spine, and she couldn't help but ask, you didn't die? Back then, it was with these eyes that the unbeatable Emperor defeated her. As soon as these eyes opened, she was drawn into a strange illusion realm. In the illusion realm, She was besieged by multiple versions of herself until she was defeated. Even now, she could not comprehend it when she recalled the incident. What kind of divine skill was that, making her turn against herself? The battle within the illusion realm didn't feel like a hallucination, because afterwards, the injuries she sustained there manifested in reality. These mysterious eyes didn't answer Ji Xiaoyu, only stared coldly at her. Ji Xiaoyu sensed something was wrong. Her expression changed drastically. She instinctively tried to get up, but an unbelievably terrifying force suppressed her, preventing her from rising. The other party was probing her karma. No, he wasn't the unbeatable emperor. Ji Xiaoyu could feel that the oppressive force was much stronger than that of the unbeatable emperor. It was an unimaginable power. Even Guan did not bring such a terrifying sense of pressure. Could he be the entity behind the unbeatable emperor? Investigating the cause of the unbeatable emperor's death? Ji Xiaoyu instinctively thought of Guan, but in an instant, she focused her attention back on the figure before her. Were these eyes a bloodline heritage? She had heard from Yuan Songzi that the emperor clan, behind the unbeatable emperor, dared to take the title of emperor because they had nurtured many Taoist emperors. Cultivating so many great Tao emperors was beyond the reach of a mere Taoist technique legacy. The bloodline talent of the emperor clan must be extraordinary. Just then, the eyes closed, but Ji Xiaoyu did not relax, as the suppressive force was still there. A silhouette emerged from the black mist at the zenith. An elderly man in black robes, his white hair tied beneath a crown, exuding an extraordinary aura, with a coldness between his brows that sent chills down one's spine. His purple eyes seemed able to penetrate the soul, causing Ji Xiaoyu's heart to tremble. Ji Xiaoyu saw a shadow of the unbeatable emperor in him. This person clearly had some connection to the unbeatable emperor. The old man in black descended from the sky, landing in front of Ji Xiaoyu. He raised his right hand towards Ji Xiaoyu's forehead. Faced with such a dire situation, Ji Xiaoyu felt despair in her heart but showed no fear, instead staring straight at the old man in black. Clap! A hand suddenly pressed on the old man's shoulder. The sound not loud, yet at this moment, it reverberated throughout the hall. The purple eyes of the old man in black widened suddenly, and Ji Xiaoyu saw the newcomer behind him, which made her expression complicated. Suddenly, the old man's soul flew out of his body, turning to face the figure behind his flesh, his eyes wide open, emitting a terrifying aura. However, nothing happened. The old man couldn't help but exclaim, "How is this possible? Who exactly are you?" His immortal emperor's eye was actually suppressed by the other party, unable to unleash its divine skill power. It was the first time he encountered such a situation. Even encountering an existence with a higher cultivation level, his immortal emperor's eye could cause trouble. Guan slightly lifted his head, looking at the old man's soul, his expression indifferent. His right hand squeezed, forcibly pulling the old man's soul back into his body. Immediately, the old man's flesh rapidly shrunk, finally disappearing into his palm. Guan's right hand tightened, then tucked it into his arms, as if he were holding a small trinket. This scene left Ji Xiaoyu momentarily dazed. With the disappearance of the old man, the pressure suppressing her also vanished, but she remained sitting on the cushion. The hall plunged into silence once more. Guan looked at Ji Xiaoyu, suddenly at a loss for words, as the two stared at each other. Ji Xiaoyu regained her composure and asked, "Did you anticipate his arrival long ago, or did you notice him the moment he arrived?" Guan replied, "Both. I keep an eye on you when I have nothing else to do." These words caused a subtle change in Ji Xiaoyu's gaze. Does he care about me? Thinking this, Ji Xiaoyu felt a little elated inside, though she did not show it on her face. CTH Novelfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan could hear her inner thoughts, which boosted his confidence. He smiled and said, "Miss Third, do you have any grievances against me? Not visiting for years and going off on the path of the great Tao. If you came to me, I could surely grant you power stronger than a Taoist emperor." He still preferred to call Ji Xiaoyu Miss Third, as it reminded him of the past. "I can't bear such a title, and I'm no longer associated with the Ji family," Ji Xiaoyu replied, pondering how to deal with Guan. She knew Gu An's words might be true, but she still didn't want to rely on him. Guan sighed inwardly, she's indeed proud. With a wave of his right hand, a Dao treasure flew to Ji Xiaoyu and Guan said, "This is a Dao treasure I crafted, called the Reincarnation Endless Map. It contains the path of reincarnation, capable of eliminating the residual power left by the unbeatable emperor." With that, he disappeared into thin air. Ji Xiaoyu looked at the Reincarnation Endless Map, hovering in front of her. The map unfolded, filled with strokes and ink, resembling gloomy clouds, with nothing else visible. She raised her hand to catch the Reincarnation Endless Map, then let out a slight sigh. He left so quickly. I wanted to ask him about the unbeatable emperor's divine skill just now. Ji Xiaoyu whispered with a sigh, her gaze landing on the Reincarnation Endless Map, her expression turning complex. Why hadn't she felt his dominance before? Forcing himself to help her like this. Elsewhere, Guan returned to the Daoist field of the beginningless. He left quickly because he knew Ji Xiaoyu would inquire about the immortal emperor's eye. The eyes of the unbeatable emperor, and the old man in black were indeed the immortal emperor's eye. Guan was curious about this. The immortal emperor's eye was not tolerated by the celestial court, yet the emperor clan dared to cultivate it? No wonder they faced extermination. If the immortal emperor's eye were to spread, they'd face even more dire consequences. Guan sat inside his chamber, lifting his right hand where the old man in black, now the size of a grain of rice, stood in his palm. At this moment, the old man still retained consciousness. Looking up at the gigantic Guan, his eyes were filled with horror and despair. He roughly guessed what Guan intended to do but was powerless to resist, unable even to self-destruct. Why is this happening? Why does my immortal emperor's eye fear him so? The old man's mind collapsed with these thoughts, not just because he was facing death, but also because the failure of the immortal emperor's eye shattered his belief. Previously, he believed the immortal emperor's eye to be the ultimate power. This was the source of his confidence to come. It took him millennia, avoiding the celestial god, to infiltrate the celestial spirit great world, only to be captured immediately upon arrival. A conclusion he had never envisioned. Guan looked down at the old man, his eyes transforming as he unleashed the calamity absolute eye, brutally searching through the old man's memories. In an instant, the old man's consciousness broke down, his immortal emperor's eye losing its luster. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 665. Unbeaten Emperor Ancestor. This black-robed elder is the greatest supporter behind the unbeatable emperor, known as the Unbeaten Emperor Ancestor. The title of Unbeatable Emperor is given to each generation's emperor successor in the undefeated emperor clan, which has seen many generations of unbeatable emperors. To obtain the title Unbeatable Emperor among one's peers is almost to secure the path of the Taoist emperor, and the reason lies in the immortal emperor's eye. Acquiring the title allows one to inherit the immortal emperor's eye from the unbeaten emperor ancestor. Even the undefeated emperor clan is unaware of the existence of the immortal emperor's eye. The clan members only know that the unbeatable emperor wields a taboo power that cannot be exposed, and they will protect this secret even at the cost of their lives. The immortal emperor's eye of the unbeaten emperor ancestor bears no greater karmic ties. He only witnessed the Stealing Heaven immortal sect and the Stealing Heaven emperor being suppressed by the celestial court, which made him wary of exposing the immortal emperor's eye. However, the power of the immortal emperor's eye is too formidable for him to relinquish. Over the years, in moments of despair, he mastered the immortal emperor's eye, thereby creating the renowned undefeated emperor clan in the primordial emperor domain. Now, with the cultivation level of the Miaojin Daluo immortal, his cultivation reaches the heavens and the earth, remaining hidden behind the scenes while observing the rise and fall of the human world with a smile. If the unbeatable emperor and the other elite members of the clan had not been annihilated, he would not have acted. Upon realizing that the unbeaten emperor ancestor had no entanglement with the celestial court, and even feared it, Guan suddenly changed his mind. Of course, The main reason was that the unbeaten emperor ancestor only had a lifespan of several trillion years left, and killing him would seize several billion years of life. But for the current Guan, life of several billion years was not that important. Perhaps the unbeaten emperor ancestor could create even greater benefits for him. Guan threw the unbeaten emperor ancestor into his Dao fruit universe. All Daoyuo immortals can develop a universe within the depths of their souls. Some Daoyuo immortals focus on developing the power of the universe. Previously, Guan tried to plant and harvest medicinal herbs in his Dao fruit universe, but didn't gain life from it, so he had no interest in developing the Dao fruit universe. For him, the Dao fruit universe was more like a divine skill, used to seal enemies and store treasures. The unbeaten emperor ancestor opened his eyes and instinctively looked around, finding himself in a dark universe. Suddenly, he seemed to sense something and quickly turned his head, only to freeze, his eyes widening with disbelief. A pair of golden red eyes stared at him in the darkness, and in front of these eyes, the unbeaten emperor ancestor felt an urge to submit. "Who are you?" the unbeaten emperor ancestor asked, his voice quivering. He could feel his immortal emperor's eyes shivering in fear, an emotion he had never experienced before, intensifying his dread of the mysterious eyes ahead. "Regarding the death of your descendants, you should already know the cause and effect. Do you have any grievances?" Guan's voice sounded cold in tone. Even though the undefeated emperor clan had its reasons, ultimately they refused to relent. Guan did not directly destroy them, he advised first, and when they refused to heed, they had to face demise. The unbeaten emperor ancestor took a deep breath and said, "The strong vanquish the weak. What grievances could there be? I came because I did not recognize your strength surpassed mine. Before I die, I still wish to ask clearly, who exactly are you? Are these eyes of yours the immortal emperor's eye?" Since the fall of the stealing heaven emperor, he had never seen another pair of immortal emperor's eyes, leading to many speculations about Guan's identity. He even suspected Guan might be the stealing heaven emperor. "You guessed wrong. I have no connection with the stealing heaven emperor. Indeed, my eyes are the immortal emperor's eye. You should be able to sense that, even as both possessors of the immortal emperor's eye, the difference between us is significant, unrelated to cultivation level." Guan's voice resonated, rendering the unbeaten emperor ancestor silent, filled with a strong sense of defeat. "Do you hate the celestial court?" Guan's inquiry awakened distant memories for the unbeaten emperor ancestor. His immortal emperor's eye suddenly appeared, and he gritted his teeth saying, "Yes, at this point, I have nothing to hide. The celestial gods of the celestial court killed my wife and children. This vendetta, I will never forget for eternity." The unbeatable emperor was generations apart from him. He held little affection for him, more of a familial duty to continue the lineage. But his wife and children were different. Even after such a long time, he could hardly suppress his hatred when he thought of them. Sar the Novelier. NET website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The immortal emperor's eye of the stealing heaven emperor instigated fear in the celestial court. And when the celestial gods descended, unable to capture the stealing heaven emperor, the victorious stealing heaven emperor, filled with fighting spirit, even led the stealing heaven immortal sect to actively confront the celestial court, invoking the might of the court for suppression. In that battle, the primordial emperor domain was affected, leading to the tragic deaths of countless innocent beings, including the wife and children of the unbeaten emperor ancestor. His hatred stemmed from the fact that his wife and children were not casualties of battle, but were sacrificed entirely by a wounded celestial god who needed chi blood from his entire city, while he happened to be outside the city and escaped, witnessing his wife and children's souls consumed by the celestial god. During Guan's soul search, he couldn't clearly see the heavenly court's immortal gods, but he could perceive the situation at the time, albeit the immortal gods appeared vague. Now the celestial court's immortal gods were always plotting against him. Even when the celestial spirit god suggested the strategy to ascend to immortality through meritorious deeds, he continued to guard against the celestial court. The undefeated emperor clan was a power that could be drawn in. His absolute void eye had absolute suppression over the immortal emperor's eye, so he did not fear betrayal from the unbeaten emperor ancestor. Swear your allegiance to me, and this causality shall be settled. Both of us being wielders of the immortal emperor's eye, we belong to the same camp. At least we will not be accepted by the celestial court, only suppressed by it. Gu An's voice sounded, and the unbeaten emperor ancestor wasn't surprised. When he saw the eyes of the other, he knew the person was not a celestial god of the celestial court. If he refused, he wouldn't just die. The entire emperor clan might face annihilation too. He had worked hard for many years and didn't want his efforts to go to waste now. In his eyes, the undefeated emperor clan was merely his weapon for revenge against the celestial court. However, the weapon wasn't strong enough yet. He needed to bide his time. Guan, aware of his hatred and plans for the emperor clan, sought to subjugate him. I can make your immortal emperor's eye stronger. Upon hearing Guan's words, the unbeaten emperor ancestor's pupils shrank, and he immediately knelt, solemnly saying, "Greetings, my lord." Subduing the unbeaten emperor ancestor was merely a side chapter. After assigning him some tasks, Guan let him go, continuing his peaceful life. Since the return of Yuan Songzi, Zhao Rushan began contemplating reaching the level of Taoist emperor. This plan had long circulated within the Tao court, and in past years, Zhao Rushan was unable to defeat Emperor Tianhong. He felt that only becoming a Taoist emperor could fully surpass Emperor Tianhong. However, Yuan Songzi did not agree to take him on the path of the Great Tao, making Zhao Rushan quite dissatisfied. Yuan Songzi's assertion that he wasn't ready felt humiliating to him. Why could a mundane woman like Xiaolon go, but he couldn't? Occasionally, when Guan went to accompany Xiaolon, he noticed Zhao Rushan's maneuvers, as this fellow was secretly enlisting the upper echelons of the Tao court, with a mind even inclined toward rebellion. To this, Guan had no intention of intervening, as long as it didn't affect Xiaolon. Time flowed rapidly under this backdrop, far faster than before, as the era of the primordial era also approached its end. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 666. Changes of the world 200,000 years after the reshaping of heaven and earth. Figures of both humans and demons have spread across the celestial spirit great world, and the celestial Tao destiny that shrouds the great world has also begun to change. Those great powers who comprehend the rules of heaven and earth can all sense that the fate of the world is about to enter a completely new phase. Time flies. It has been 100,000 years since Guan subjugated the unbeaten emperor ancestor. 100,000 years are enough to change the world, but only those great powers who remain in deep seclusion have not been affected. Now the human world has a new landscape, with an imperial dynasty named Taiqian rising, supported by many super sects from the human world. Within 100,000 years, Taiqian has aggressively expanded, and although it has not yet completely unified the world, its momentum has shown everyone the aura of a world ruler. The relationship between Taiqian and the Tao court is somewhat tense. Their grievances are many, and it is difficult to discern who is right or wrong. In early summer of this year, Guan wandered with Emperor Tianhong within the Qingkuan sect, watching the recent internal competition. After the combat ended, they went to an inn to drink wine. Name: Guan. Lifespan: 283-979/18-947, 893, 809, 561. Physique: primordial Tao creation body. Cultivation level: perfect Taoist Great Luo immortal realm. Without much fighting and killing, the increase in lifespan isn't very fast, but fortunately, it's steady. Guan is quite satisfied with this pace of increase. For the next million years, there will be no catastrophe in the celestial spirit great world, so his days will be very peaceful. He has achieved the cultivation level of the perfect Taoist Great Luo immortal realm, and he can now consider factors beyond the cosmos in his future predictions. His foresight includes the influence of the 3,000 great worlds on the celestial spirit great world, a prediction ability far surpassing before. However, There are still unknown causes and effects he cannot factor in. Tianhao has already left the celestial spirit great world, and it is challenging for larger causes and effects to descend upon the celestial spirit great world again. While pouring wine for Guan, Emperor Tianhong curiously asked, "Master, recently a lot of mysterious talents have appeared in the Qiankuan sect. Might this be your handiwork?" Guan replied, "I Qingshan constantly begged me, so I had no choice but to recommend a batch of talents. This batch of talents is not simple. They are from the undefeated Emperor clan, and would be considered top-tier talents even in the primordial Emperor domain. Coming to the celestial spirit great world, none are inferior to Zhao Rushan." Guan first arranged for the unbeaten Emperor ancestor to deploy 20 people. These 20 have already established a foothold in the Qiankuan sect. They are very happy to have come to the celestial spirit great world, for within the clan, they amounted to nothing, but here, they finally experienced the treatment of peerless talents. The most important thing is that it's the arrangement of the ancestor. Being able to serve the ancestor, they feel proud. Under the admonishment of the unbeaten Emperor ancestor, these talents behaved very well, causing no trouble and actively making contributions to the Qiankuan sect. Does Wuxia have other disciples? Emperor Tianhong inquired further. The 20 talents from the unbeaten Emperor ancestor made a great impression during the Qiankuan sect's competition. He felt their talent was not inferior to his own, which surprised him greatly. Guan shook his head and said, "It's just a bit of cause and effect with me." Seeing that Guan didn't want to elaborate, Emperor Tianhong stopped probing and shifted the topic to the millennium combat within the Taoist field of the beginningless. Every millennium, one-on-one sparring occurs within the Taoist field of the beginningless. In the last bout, Emperor Tianhong faced the Blood Prison Great Saint. He unexpectedly lost to the Blood Prison Great Saint. This frustrated him greatly. He had thought himself to be the second disciple of Wuxia, yet he was unable to defeat that seeming frivolous ox demon. However, considering the Blood Prison Great Saint was his master's only steed, he felt a sense of relief. Now he just wanted to know what divine skills the Blood Prison Great Saint was cultivating that were so domineering. Guan answered, "Extreme Dao combat technique. It's a Taoist technique I created during my reincarnation. It's a technique distinct from divine skills, very difficult to cultivate, and even he has only barely entered the Tao. The Extreme Dao combat technique is a Taoist technique created by the extreme, and among all the disciples, only the battle spirit of the Blood Prison Great Saint is qualified to cultivate the Extreme Dao combat technique." Hearing this, Emperor Tianhong mused deeply. He found that his master had many inheritances, and each disciple cultivated different paths, with no repetition, so he dared not ask his master to teach him the Extreme Dao combat technique. He believed the Taoist technique passed to him by his master was not weak, only he had yet to reach the grand achievement to unleash its true power. After this internal competition ends, do me a favor by going down the mountain to Taiqian, find someone and teach him the method of cultivating immortality, and give him a new name Tai. Guan looked at the street outside the window and said softly. As he spoke, he handed Emperor Tianhong a jade pendant, which would guide Emperor Tianhong to find that person. Emperor Tianhong took the jade pendant and asked, "To what extent should I teach him, and do I need to bring him back?" Guan replied, "It's up to you, at least ensure he has the power to defend himself. There's no need to bring him back, nor should you take him as a disciple or reveal the name of Wuxia." This instruction made Emperor Tianhong even more interested in that person. The internal competition of the Qiankuan sect will last several months, as the sect's establishment is vast, with many talented disciples participating. The final 30 winners will go to the Tao court together to compete in the Magic Battle Conference, which symbolizes the highest talent in the world. The Millennial Heavenly Pride Magic Battle Conference is regarded as the most premier event between heaven and earth, and the rivalry of talents will bring unimaginable benefits to the sects backing them. It is truly a case of one person achieving Tao, elevating everything related to them. After the Qiankuan sect's competition ended, Emperor Tianhong set off. Guan, however, went to the hidden spirit palace under the sea. Chen Chuan's parents, Su Ling and Chen Luo, had long departed, and they joined Chen Chuan to develop the sword sect together. Without further curses, Guan naturally paid less attention to them. Even though Chen Chuan was Xiaochuan's reincarnation, Guan had already given enough care to his parents, with no need to keep watching all the time. The hidden spirit palace was desolate, with arrays of medicine gardens planted in front of the palace. The distribution was simple, and the colors pieced together gave off a bizarre sense of beauty. The deep-sea dragon carp opened its eyes, and saw Guan harvesting medicinal herbs. It immediately stood up. Sar the Ovalfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Now it had the cultivation of a divine immortal of wondrous dharma. Its temperament had become more mature than before, yet in its simple white robe with long hair reaching the ground, it still exuded a feminine grace. Although it still had the appearance of a feminine grace outwardly, it already understood the difference between genders. After cultivating in the hidden spirit palace for more than 200,000 years, it also harbored greater ambitions in its heart. Master, when will you let me adopt a few disciples to relieve my boredom? The deep-sea dragon carp came beside Guan, asking cautiously. Since Chun Luo and his spouse left, it felt lonely, often having no one to talk to. Guan ignored its sigh, knowing well what it was thinking, and said, "Once you reach the Zizai immortal realm, I will permit you to travel for 1,000 years to personally select and bring back 9 disciples." Zizai immortal? The deep-sea dragon carp's expression changed slightly, indicating it might take another 1,000,000 years. But thinking about its grand ambitions, it felt that even achieving the cultivation of the Freedom Realm was far from enough, and being able to cultivate 9 disciples in the Zizai immortal realm would greatly aid its future vast undertaking. "Thank you, Master." The deep-sea dragon carp immediately bowed, thanking Guan. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 667. Taiwei Divine Court. Guan did not look at the deep-sea dragon carp. He continued to pick the medicinal herbs. His heart was filled with emotion. As the disciples' time in cultivation grows longer, their hearts too begin to nurture ambitions. This is quite normal, for cultivation is indeed pursued with some goal. Guan would not restrain the disciples for a lifetime. With his promise to the deep-sea dragon carp, the fate of the deep-sea dragon carp changed. Long in the future, he would unify the ocean demon clans of the celestial spirit great world, even transform into a dragon, establish the dragon palace, and would engage in an epic-changing battle with the immortal cultivation realm on the continent. Seeing scenes of the future, Guan did not think it was a bad thing. Such conflicts are the choice of heaven and earth. Without the deep-sea dragon carp, someone else would do it. He could not claim that all wars are absolutely evil. It is worth mentioning that when that great calamity comes, the deep-sea dragon carp will also face a Wuxia disciple, only that the two sides do not know each other. The deep-sea dragon carp did not know that Guan was peering into his future, and he meticulously followed Guan, narrating his recent cultivation confusions, which Guan addressed one by one. His upbringing of the deep-sea dragon carp was not inferior to that of the Wuxia disciple. After all, the deep-sea dragon carp had been independently managing the medicine garden of the hidden spirit palace with great merit. The deep-sea dragon carp was in the realm of the divine immortal of wondrous dharma, while the disciples within the Taoist field of the beginningless had the lowest cultivation level, also being in the divine immortal of wondrous dharma realm. Among them an Exian and the blood prison great saint had already crossed into the Tao void profound immortal realm, reaching the divine thought true immortal realm. Although their strength could not yet be considered great, Guan was still satisfied with their growth speed. After all, not everyone could be as favored as him. Even the most exceptional talent requires a long time to accumulate cultivation. Under the magnificent blue sky, the mountains stretched continuously, with celestial giant trees rooted, towering over the surrounding majestic mountains, and there was more than one such tree. Beneath a giant tree, thousands of cultivators gathered together, and even with so many people together, the diameter of the occupied area was still far less than the width of the main trunk of the giant tree. once the holy heaven reincarnation, and the former lord of the heavenly spirit great heaven and earth holy court. Zhuxi, she stood among the crowd, listening to the person speaking at the front. The divine court is domineering, controlling the life and death of all living beings under heaven, and the cycle of reincarnation is at their command. The land upon which all beings dwell is divided by them. Those expelled by the divine court must leave the Taiwei Great World. But outside the Taiwei Great World lies a dark forbidden zone, with countless evil demons and ghosts lurking, waiting to swallow living spirits. We imprisoned here have nothing to await but exile. Zhuxi, wearing a blue and white form-fitting robe, with her hair tied casually, exuded a demeanor of a chivalrous lady from the martial world. Listening to the speech, her thoughts drifted away, a wry smile appearing on her face. She was originally venturing in another great world. Having awakened her origin divine soul, she was already a profound yuan-free immortal, having re-established her own sect. Due to sectarian struggles, she was jointly targeted by the local major sections. In the midst of chaotic fighting, she deployed a secret technique, shattered the void, and escaped into the chaotic stream of the Great Tao. Upon awakening again, she found herself in the Taiwei Great World. Just as she was about to acquaint herself with the new world, a group of cultivators descended from the sky, declaring her an outsider adventurer who must be detained, and thus she ended up here. This little world is the detention ground of the divine court, housing countless living beings, even those far exceeding her cultivation, and quite a few at that. She wandered this place aimlessly until someone recruited her, inquiring if she wished to escape to safety. Having ventured through numerous worlds, Zhuxi deeply understood that one's fate must be grasped in their own hands, and could not sit idly by waiting for doom. And thus she came along, surrounding thousands, with the lowest cultivation level being the Zizai immortal realm, and the speaker's Tao practice being deep and unmeasurable, reminiscent of the type of adversary she faced when departing the celestial spirit great world. Even if my master were here, his Tao practice might still not be as profound as his. How terrifying a level of cultivation to be suppressed by the divine court. How formidable must this divine court be? Zhuxi pondered alarmed, and thinking of her master made her feel a bit desolate. Parting for over 200,000 years, she could not find her way back to the celestial spirit great world, and felt as though she might never return in this lifetime. Only after leaving the celestial spirit great world did she realize how magnificent the great Tao was. Because of this, her heart embraced even grander aspirations. She wanted to restore the holy court, to elevate it to an existence surpassing the 3,000 great worlds. For now, she had to find a way to escape this place. The more perilous the situation, the more she felt she could encounter great fortunes. This Taiwei Great World surely harbors great fortunes beyond her imagination. Search * The Oval Fire. @ website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Do you suppose what his cultivation level might be? A voice suddenly reached Zhuxi's ears, causing her to turn her head. A handsome man came beside her, his face smiling, in stark contrast to the grave expressions on the faces of those around. How high? Zhuxi inquired. The handsome man smiled and said, "He is an innate golden immortal, above the heaven-encompassing free immortal." Zhuxi's pupils suddenly dilated. In the previous great world, she had heard of the legends of innate golden immortals, and she never expected to encounter one in a place like this. The handsome man continued, "In this place, there are dozens of innate golden immortals. Do you know the realm of the divine court cultivator guarding this place?" "What is the realm?" "That one's realm is the heaven-balancing golden immortal realm. Above the innate golden immortal, with 100 innate golden immortals under him, suppressing this place, while within the divine court, the heaven-balancing golden immortal is far from the summit." His words made Zhuxi furrow her brows tightly, feeling a sense of despair. With such a vast gap in cultivation, how could she escape? No matter how it seemed, the upcoming actions of this group would all result in failure. The handsome man looked at Zhuxi and said with a faint smile, "I have a way to get you out of here." Zhuxi frowned, cautiously asked, "We are strangers. Why are you assisting me?" The handsome man grinned. You bear the karma of the celestial court. It seems you are related to some celestial being from the celestial court. Zhu Zai's brows knitted even tighter. Don't overthink it, I was planning an escape anyway. Seeing you have such karma, I'd take you along. The handsome man shrugged, wearing a carefree smile. Zhu Shi deliberated and thought it prudent to first test him, so she said, I am called Zhu Shi, and may I know your honorable name, fellow Taoist? The handsome man replied, I am named Meng Lang. Meng Lang? Such a common name. Zhu Shi had encountered many bearing this name in various places. She glanced around, puzzled, and asked, It seems others can't hear our conversation? The handsome man named Meng Lang smiled. Naturally, since we are conspiring to escape, how could it be broadcast? What do you intend to do? Are you also a heaven-balancing golden immortal? Zhu Shi looked intently at Meng Lang, seriously asking. Meng Lang shook his head. A heaven-balancing golden immortal, possessing vast divine skills, I am not. Zhu Shi pursued. Then are you an innate golden immortal? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 668 Trace of the Immortal Gods. It's not an innate golden immortal either. Meng Lang replied, causing Zhu Zai's brow to furrow again, feeling a bit disappointed. The reason she didn't guess above the heaven-balancing golden immortal was because such a transcendent existence couldn't possibly be trapped here. She stared at Meng Lang, hoping he could convince her. What reliance did Meng Lang have that made him think he could help her escape? If he didn't explain clearly, she wouldn't follow Meng Lang. Meng Lang looked ahead, where an innate golden immortal was still passionately speaking, stirring the blood of those present, filling their hearts with high spirits and determination. Rather than waiting to die, it's better to fight desperately. The Taiwei Great World is really deep. Meng Lang, who is actually Guan, thought to himself. Guan, having foreseen in the celestial spirit Great World that Zhu Shi was in trouble, came to assist her. He transformed into Meng Lang to avoid getting too involved in karmic entanglements. After arriving in the Taiwei Great World, Guan discovered that several Daoyuo immortals were hidden within this great world, and even some of the world's karma was too profound to calculate. He had heard before that among the 3,000 great worlds, a few had foundations far exceeding other great thousand worlds, and he realized today that it was true. This innate golden immortal had already set up a formation, thinking it would isolate prying eyes, facilitating the stirring of hearts, but little did he know, a Taiqing golden immortal was watching him at this moment. Yes, not a heaven-balancing golden immortal, but a Taiqing golden immortal standing above the heavens, toying with 2 pearls in his hand, his expression so cold, and his eyes reflecting the scene of Zhu Shi and others gathering together. If Guan didn't intervene, Zhu Shi would follow these people to escape, only to be caught by the Taiqing golden immortal, brought back to the dojo, and finally refined into a ghost artifact. Moreover, Guan felt the presence of an immortal god in the depths of the divine court in the Taiwei Great World, stronger than the Tai immortal monarch, forcing him to speculate about the relationship between the Taiwei divine court and the celestial court. If you don't make it clear, I can't go with you. Who exactly are you? And what backing do you have to help me? Zhu Zai's voice interrupted Guan's thoughts. Guan smiled and said, Don't ask so much, just watch. Zhu Shi frowned upon hearing this. Just as she was about to say more, the speaking innate golden immortal suddenly burst forth with a strong momentum, drawing her attention. Everyone, once the escape plan is confirmed, it should not be delayed. We can kill our way out right now. I will open up a tunnel, but it's uncertain where this tunnel will lead. Most likely, it will lead inside the divine court, and we'll have to improvise afterward. The innate golden immortal said while casting spells, drawing circles with his hands, and a black hole appeared in front of him, rapidly expanding, surrounded by intertwining time-space lightning, its darkness making one shiver, appearing so terrifying. Once the black hole stabilized, he entered it first, followed closely by others. Some hesitated, but seeing those ahead entering, they gritted their teeth and followed. Zhu Shi was about to ask Guan, only to see Guan follow too. This made her feel absurd. Was this person's plan to follow these people? Then what was the meaning of everything he said before? Without him, she would have followed too. She cursed a few words in her heart and also chose to follow. She came behind Guan, staring at his back with an unfriendly look. If looks could kill, Guan would probably have turned to dust by now. The two stepped into the black hole one after the other. As soon as they entered the black hole, Zhu's eye's vision was swallowed by darkness, and even her divine sense couldn't see, but fortunately, she could feel the surge of spiritual energy, and she could also hear Guan's footsteps ahead. Is this your plan? Without you, I would have followed him. Zhu, she said through gritted teeth, her tone very displeased. Guan's voice followed. The real trouble starts after we get out. Without me you will undoubtedly die. These words left Zhu uncertain and apprehensive. She could only hold her confusion in check and remain vigilant. She didn't completely trust the leading innate golden immortal either, just had no choice but to follow under such desperation. They moved quickly, and Zhu clearly felt the spiritual energy along the way growing richer. This indicated they were getting closer to the exit. Zhu grew more nervous, beginning to imagine what they might encounter after escaping. A while later, light finally appeared ahead, and Zhu heard the voices of the people around her, most of whom felt pleasantly surprised, not expecting to truly escape that suppressed place. As the light in front grew brighter, Zhu gradually saw Guan's back. For some reason, she felt a sense of déjà vu, as if she had seen this person's back somewhere before. Soon, she followed Guan into a bright light, her divine sense instantly recovered. She sensed the people ahead stopping all at once, and she also halted her steps. She opened her eyes and looked ahead, her face instantly freezing. Not just her, the other escaping individuals also looked forward in disbelief. Ahead was a vast and boundless forest. Like another world, only everyone's gaze was focused above the forest. Above the sea of clouds, countless figures in purple armor stood on the clouds, each holding a divine weapon. Sweeping the eye over them, one couldn't count how many there were. The vast army exuded a suppressive momentum. The leading innate golden immortal's face turned ashen, as if he hadn't expected so many enemies waiting outside. Your Highness, you are the crown prince of the divine court. Why commit treason? A voice rang out across the heavens, causing a commotion among the escapees, who hadn't expected this innate golden immortal to be the crown prince of the divine court. Zhu frowned deeply, feeling only dread. Clearly, she had been swept up in a larger karma, where if she hadn't been incited earlier and stayed in the place of guardianship, she wouldn't be facing such trouble now. The innate golden immortal took a deep breath, stepped forward and shouted loudly, General Zhu, you are the eternal divine general of the divine court, protecting the great world many times, and all living beings revere you. But now the divine court has become a lapdog of the immortal gods. In the last 1,000,000 years, how many innocent lives have been lost to the divine court's offerings to the immortal gods? Can you really remain indifferent? That immortal god is insatiable, enlarging ambition step by step, and one day will set eyes on the foundation of our divine court. We cannot gamble. These words made the escapees even more uneasy. How could it also involve the immortal gods? Even in the Taiwei Great World, immortal gods were nothing but elusive legends. They, like Zhu, felt things had become extremely perilous, involving the crown prince of the divine court and the immortal gods, meaning what awaited them was likely an irreversible disaster. Zhu turned to look at Guan, noticing not a trace of tension on his face, which only piqued her curiosity even more about how this person planned to lead her out. Could it be related to that immortal god? Sar the novel Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. From what the divine court crown prince said, that immortal god seemed very malevolent, but to Zhu, an outsider, the good and evil of this realm were temporarily irrelevant. She just wanted to escape. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 669. The struggle of the Celestial Emperor. As the words of the divine court crown prince fell, A magnificent figure emerged above the vast army in purple armor on the clouds, appearing ethereal in the sunlight, like a mirage. General Zhu. He stood high above, overlooking the world, wearing heavy and majestic red armor. His face was solemn, and his brows resembled two flames. His long hair coiled beneath the divine crown, and 7 giant swords radiating different divine lights hovered behind him in a fan shape, as if 7 divine powers stood behind him. Before General Zhu, Zhu Shi and the escapees felt a deep sense of awe. Some couldn't withstand the pressure and fell to their knees directly. General Zhu's right hand was half raised, playing with 2 beads in his palm, like 2 stars squeezing together, shaking the soul. Crown Prince, how dare you slander the immortal gods and question the divine court? If His Majesty knew this, imagine his heartbreak. General Zhu's voice rang out, and as his words ended, a vertical eye suddenly opened on his forehead, shooting a terrifying red beam at incredible speed down from the sky. Everything happened too quickly, so fast that the divine court crown prince had no time to react. Boom! The red light struck the divine court crown prince, and the dreadful impact blew the escapees away. Some attempted to flee, but the tunnel created by the divine court crown prince had vanished. Just as the escapees tried to leap up, an unimaginable pressure pinned them down, forcing them to their knees. Howling winds, scattered debris, and forests were swept away, resembling the arrival of the apocalypse. Zhu Shi was pushed to her knees, struggling to lift her head, her pupils trembling in fear. Such terrifying suppression. She couldn't imagine how terrifying it would be if the opponent went all out. The red light dissipated in front, leaving only a white skeleton of the divine court crown prince, trembling precariously, eventually collapsing on the ground. This scene filled the thousands of other escapees with despair. If even the divine court crown prince had to die, how could they survive? High above, General Zhu's expression was indifferent, as if he had not killed the divine court crown prince, but merely an insect. The countless divine soldiers in purple armor, also expressionless, heightened the air of despair in the land. General Zhu opened his right hand, letting the 2 beads fall, releasing a dazzling light as they descended, dimming the world. The intense light fell, and Zhu Shi couldn't help but turn to Guan beside her, gritting her teeth and asking, "Didn't you say you have a way?" Guan glanced at her, a corner of his mouth curving up. His smile appeared arrogant in Zhu's eyes, seeming crazily out of place at this moment. Zhu Shi couldn't understand why this person could still smile as scorching air waves descended from the sky, making her mind go blank for an instant. Boom! The ground erupted with a world-shaking explosion. Countless trees flew like confetti, the divine soldiers of the court coldly overseeing everything. General Zhu's expression shifted, greed flashing in his eyes. Under the dusk, lying on the ground, Zhu Shi suddenly opened her eyes. Bloodshot filled her view as she gasped heavily, as if waking from a nightmare. She sat up immediately, seeing Guan's figure beside her. Guan sat on a nearby empty ground, a fire burning in front of him, holding a mirror in his hand, as if admiring his reflection. Zhu Shi gathered her thoughts, instinctively looking around, finding herself on a cliff, distant mountains stretching endlessly, the ridges draped in afterglow, beautifully desolate. Did we escape? Zhu Shi looked at Guan, asking nervously. Guan gazed at the 7-star mirror in his hand, saying, "Yes, we escaped, but we're still in the Taiwei Great World." The 7-star mirror, after his modifications, was now a Dao treasure, reflecting images of the human world in the Taiwei Great World on its surface as he spied on it. Hearing his words, Zhu Shi sighed in relief, standing up, bowing to Guan in gratitude for saving her life. "Senior, I have things to attend to, so we'll take my leave." Zhu Shi turned and left after saying this. "Don't you want to become stronger?" Guan's voice came, halting Zhu's steps. She turned back to look at Guan, her eyes complex. Guan still did not look at her, his gaze fixated on the 7-star mirror. Sar the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Celestial Spirit Great World, Qingkuan Sect. In the early morning, Guan and the Celestial Spirit God walked down the street, appearing to be strolling, yet discussing grand matters of the Great Thousand World. I learned from my dear friend that the atmosphere in the celestial court is strange, reportedly involving the struggle for the celestial emperor's position, with countless unimaginable forces scheming secretly, even reaching the celestial god level. The celestial spirit god said gravely, under Gu An's suggestion, he began to deepen relations with other celestial gods, with his mentioned dear friend coming from the misty immortal court. Guan, browsing the roadside stalls, asked, "Does it involve Tian Hao?" Previously, the Tai immortal monarch and profound star immortal monarch seemed to have targeted him. The celestial spirit god shook his head, saying, even in his past life, Tian Hao was far from capable of competing for the celestial emperor's position. Not to mention him, even immortal monarchs are infinitely distant in rank from the celestial emperor, and this struggle won't erupt immediately. It is likely to simmer for a long time, eventually affecting even the great thousand worlds. Though not very knowledgeable about the celestial court, he knew what the celestial emperor symbolized. It was the highest position and power, representing the strongest of the heavenly Tao. Speaking of which, I discovered an immortal god in the Taiwei Great World, he with the divine court. Guan recounted his experiences in the Taiwei Great World, 100 years since rescuing Zhu Shi, now accompanied by his avatar. Besides spying on the human world through the seven-star mirror, he occasionally wandered the human world in the Taiwei Great World. The divine court continually recruited divine disciples everywhere, with mortal recruits being severed from family ties forever. Some families received compensation, while others were forcibly enlisted. Guan saw these divine disciples being sent into a gigantic pill furnace, which was concocting some elixir, yet unfinished to this day. This was probably what the immortal god sought, with the divine court offering tributes for 1,000,000 years. In those 1,000,000 years, countless mortal spirits had been sacrificed to the pill furnace, yet no elixir had emerged, piquing his curiosity about the pill's origins. He also shared this with the celestial spirit god, hoping for an explanation. The celestial spirit god frowned, saying, "Using living spirits for alchemy isn't unheard of, but I don't know what specific elixir that immortal god is concocting. Yet for it to remain incomplete for so long, it's probably related to the struggle for the celestial emperor. The Taiwei Great World is among the top in the 3,000 great worlds. I suspect other great thousand worlds are also doing the same." He didn't condemn the immortal god's actions, instead feeling more worried. He understood the style of the immortal gods. Immortal gods would indulge evil, yet not leave traces. This meant the Taiwei Great World was doomed to destruction. If such situations arise in many great thousand worlds, eventually, the 3,000 great worlds might be destroyed, and the celestial court will recreate the 3,000 great worlds. The celestial spirit god's face was extraordinarily grave, his words altering the look in Guan's eyes. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 670. Substitute the 3,000 great worlds will be destroyed? Guan was also surprised to hear this. In his view, although the immortal gods were tyrannical and saw all living beings as nothing, they would still adhere to the so-called celestial rules. Even if it meant destroying the world, they needed just cause. The celestial court indeed had the power to annihilate the 3,000 great worlds in an instant, but wouldn't doing so violate the celestial rules? Sir, the Oval Fire. @ website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan suddenly felt that the so-called celestial rules were quite flexible. When it involved the highest authority, the rules were just child's play. "What do you think we should do?" The celestial spirit god looked at Guan and asked seriously. The celestial gods guarding the great thousand world had begun to take action, seeking a way out. To them, the great thousand world represented divine authority. If the great thousand world were lost, their positions would be destabilized, and their cultivation would suffer backlash. The celestial gods see all living beings as ants, just as the supreme beings of the celestial court see the celestial gods as ants. Guan stopped walking, glanced at a few spirit beasts squatting in front of a street stall, and replied, "Let things take their natural course. Before anything happens, the only thing you can do is cultivate diligently. The celestial spirit god had no choice but to give up after hearing this. Thinking about Guan's unfathomable cultivation level, he felt that when the catastrophe of the fight for the celestial emperor broke out in the celestial spirit great world, his predicament might not be as difficult as it seemed now. He then continued to recount his experiences from a recent journey, and Guan listened attentively. Their conversation was only audible to them, and even while walking down a busy street, they didn't attract any attention. After spending half a day exploring the Qianquan sect, the celestial spirit god returned through the world gate. Guan continued to wander around the city. With the joining of 20 geniuses from the undefeated emperor clan, the Qianquan sect was thriving, reaching an unprecedented period of prosperity. The top genius Yuan Luo continuously enhanced its reputation outside, attracting more people to come and seek guidance. At dusk, Guan carried a wine gourd in his hand. He stopped, drinking while watching the commotion. The disciples on the street were observing a conflict between two young male disciples. One of them, once a genius, had been crippled during training outside, and was now enduring humiliation from the other disciple. The other disciple was a descendant of an elder within the sect, which meant no one dared to step forward to intervene. Guan had no intention of getting involved. Watching the scene unfold, he reflected deeply. For the disciples of the Qianquan sect, the sect represented the whole martial world. For the people of the world, the heavens were vast and boundless. Unaware that the great thousand world was as insignificant as dust to certain beings, Guan pondered the path he wanted to take and what rules he should follow. He believed he could find his true self amidst the turmoil, for he had risen from the depths. Time ebbed away, and 400 years passed. In a valley, Zhu Xi, dressed in black, stood on the surface of the lake, holding a long sword with its blade horizontal in front of her as she closed her eyes. Guan lay on the grass by the lake, holding the 7-star mirror, peering into the scenes of the human world within the Taiwei Great World. The divine court crown prince was but a microcosm. There were many people in the world who wanted to resist the divine court and that immortal god. The divine court crown prince was also persuaded, and these people had already formed a faction. Although lacking the power of the divine court, they could only remain hidden. Whenever someone was taken to become a divine disciple, these individuals would appear, seeking to win over the offspring or siblings of the divine disciples using hatred. But Guan saw the leader of this faction secretly kneeling before the ruler of the divine court. It was all a ploy. The divine court's control over the Taiwei Great World was too deep, and for this great thousand world to overthrow their rule was extremely difficult. However, as Guan taught Zhu Xi to cultivate, he saw a variable. Zhu Xi would stand in opposition to the divine court. Once she could deal with that immortal god, she could replace the divine court. Boom! A vast sword intent blew from the lake surface, causing a gust of wind that stirred the flowers and grass, creating a green wave around Guan. Guan slowly sat up and tucked the 7-star mirror into his arms, turning his gaze to Zhu Xi on the lake. Zhu Xi still held her sword. Her sword intent materialized into thousands of silver stars floating above the lake, creating a beautiful and fantastical scene. Her dress billowed, and her long hair flowed, exuding an otherworldly aura. Finally entered the Tao, did you? This speed truly deserves the saint heavenly aptitude. Guan thought to himself silently. Zhu Zai's previous life was as Shengtian, unrivaled and symbolic of the strongest talent in one great thousand world. The sword intent Zhu Xi comprehended was precisely the Sacred Heart Sword Tao. The Sacred Heart Sword Tao was created by his reincarnation body, Yang Xian, depending on the river of Sword Tao, needing no lifespan to transform and improve. The Sacred Heart Sword Tao continued to grow stronger. Aside from mastering the Sacred Heart Sword Tao, Guan had used his Tao intent over the years to assist Zhu Xi in her cultivation, allowing her to gain many insights and creative ideas. She might be able to develop a different Sacred Heart Sword Tao. Zhu Xi opened her eyes, her gaze sharp, as if 2 sword beams shot out from them. She slowly raised her head. She could already feel the Sacred Heart Sword Tao guiding her from an unfathomable distance. The feeling was subtle, allowing her to even harness the power of the Sacred Heart Sword Tao. Turning to look at Guan in the distance, she flickered and appeared before him out of thin air, bowing and saying, "Senior, I have barely entered the Tao." Guan stood and looked at her, smiling. "Since that's the case, we should part ways. Do you want to stay in the Taiwei Great World, or go elsewhere? I can help you one more time." Zhu was surprised, not expecting Guan to leave today, but she was too embarrassed to ask him to stay, so she replied, "I wish to stay." "Then be sure of your decision, for I won't be there to help you later. This great thousand world is brewing a terrible disaster. Even if you cultivate for millions of years, changing fate will be difficult." Guan said seriously. Zhu took a deep breath and said, "I've long made up my mind. This great thousand world has a richer spiritual energy and great Tao compared to others I've visited, and there are internal issues within the ruling power. There's room for me to grow here, and I want to stay. Perhaps I can achieve something great." Guan smiled and said no more, turning to leave. Zhu watched his back and suddenly knelt, gritting her teeth, saying, "Thank you, Master, for your love. I've never been filial to you, but one day, I'll stand proudly before you and make you proud of me." Guan didn't pause or look back, his figure vanishing. Zhu couldn't sense any trace of Guan, feeling hollow inside. After all these years together, she finally realized that this Meng Lang was indeed her master in the celestial spirit great world, Guan, known as the supporting Tao Sword Venerable. However, she couldn't tell if the master came for her, or just happened to pass by this world. She thought it was likely just passing by, which showed how uncommon this great thousand world was. Immortal gods. Zhu's eyes flickered. Her gaze revealed ambition, giving her a majestic and oppressive aura. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Although he couldn't compare to the disciples of Wuxia in terms of training speed, he was still considered fast in the world. The two talked about worldly matters, occasionally mentioning Li Ye, Yang Jian, Long Teng, and others. Nowadays, the person Li Xiandao valued most wasn't Yang Jian or the prince, but Long Teng. As the son of Long Qing, and now the patriarch of the Long family, Long Teng had grown up, his cultivation reaching the realm of a divine immortal of wondrous dharma. He symbolized the highest talent of the Taizong dynasty, and was a world-renowned peerless prodigy. Li Xiandao curiously asked, "By the way, I've always wanted to ask, Long Teng's cultivation speed is getting faster and faster. Even Yang Jian is amazed. Is it you secretly nurturing him behind the scenes?" A divine immortal of wondrous dharma, being the 6th level of the immortal Tao, can roam the outer heaven. Reaching the realm of a divine immortal of wondrous dharma before 1,000,000 years old is a once-in-billion talent. Guan raised his wine cup, smiling. "See through it but don't reveal it." He did indeed quite like Long Teng. Often, he would transform into someone else to be near Long Teng. For Long Teng to have reached today was largely thanks to his Tao intent. When Long Teng cultivated, his Tao intent would envelop him, aiding in his enlightenment. Regarding this, Long Teng was still unaware. In fact, though Guan's Tao intent could assist others, it was more about giving them a gentle push. If Long Teng had extremely mediocre comprehension, even if he used Tao intent daily to assist, he wouldn't have nurtured him to his current achievements. Li Xiandao, upon hearing this, grew even happier and started inviting for more wine. The two drank for a full 2 hours before Guan finally took his leave. Watching Guan's departing figure, Li Xiandao couldn't help but ask, "Guan, how much longer can such days last?" 100,000 years to him was extremely long, especially since he was an emperor, facing far more partings than ordinary people. He had even seen off many descendants, with the court's ministers changing batch after batch. Only when facing Guan would his heart calm down, feeling that some things could not be erased by time. The most heartless place is the house of royalty, and Li Xiandao had thoroughly become a lonely soul. Guan raised the jade statue in his hand, saying, "Until you grow weary of it." Watching him suddenly disappear, Li Xiandao couldn't help but shake his head and smile, softly murmuring to himself, "How could I ever grow weary?" His expression gradually became complex. He didn't stand up, continuing to sit at the wine table, lost in thought. After leaving the Taizong dynasty, Guan appeared above the sea of clouds, strolling forward. The human heart is ever-changing ultimately. Guan sighed. As for Li Zuando's life, he did not wish to interfere too much. If battling powerful enemies on the path of the Great Tao, when the fight ended, the Tao spiritual qi would surge in her, allowing her to rapidly increase her cultivation level in a short time. That feeling was truly wonderful, and she still yearned for it. Who said I want to lose to you? Gu An's voice interrupted Xiaolan's thoughts, causing her to meet his gaze. Xiaolan was stunned. It was the first time she had seen Gu An's expression so serious. She pouted slightly. What, do you want me to go easy on you? Guan stared at her, whispering. Even if you give it your all, you can't possibly beat me. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 672 Primordial Tao Emperor. Seeing that Guan didn't seem to be joking, Xiaolan felt puzzled, but she had her own pride and didn't want to concede just yet. Sar the novel. F.I.R. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Then let's do it. Xiaolan raised her hand and beckoned to Guan with the demeanor of a master. The corners of Gu An's mouth turned up. With a gentle shift of his right foot, the entire world suddenly changed. The celestial vault turned dim. The flowers and grass on the ground vanished, and an endless wilderness appeared beneath their feet. This sudden change in environment caused Xiaolan's face to change drastically. She looked around, feeling that everything around her didn't seem like an illusion. What is going on? She turned to look at Guan and cautiously asked, Are you really my brother, Gu? Guan laughed. Laner, think carefully. Are you really sure about my origins? Since you became sensible, I have been at the Xiao Manor. Before coming to the Xiao Manor, did you know who I was? Who are you? As she listened to Guan, the uneasiness in Xiaolan's heart disappeared. As long as Guan was still him, she wouldn't be afraid. Guan drew out the Cyan Hong sword, gripping the sword scabbard, and said, First show me your full strength. A gleam flashed in Xiaolan's eyes, and her figure flickered. Boom! Xiaolan appeared out of thin air in front of Guan, holding the white spirit sword. The sword's tip was only 10 centimeters from Gu An's shoulder. The ground beneath them shattered, countless debris flew up, as if the world couldn't withstand the pressure and was collapsing. Yet this mere 10 centimeters, Xiaolan was unable to advance any further. Her pupils suddenly dilated, not expecting Guan to be so formidable. Guan, holding the sword scabbard of the Cyan Hong sword, pushed forward. Xiaolan felt an overwhelming force like a tidal wave crush towards her, and she uncontrollably was pushed far away, disappearing at the world's end like a sharp arrow. Along the way, Xiaolan shattered dozens of massive mountains, leaving a long trail of dust and rock floating in the air, an especially magnificent sight. Xiaolan quickly emerged from the swirling dust, not looking the least bit disheveled. Around her was visible qi force, her eyes filled with fear as she looked in Gu An's direction. At that moment, she had a terrifying feeling as if facing death. The earth and mountains quaked violently, raising a dust storm that covered the sky. Amidst the vast dust waves was a figure rapidly ascending. Unmistakably, Guan. Xiaolan could feel Guan's gaze. She no longer cared why Guan was so powerful. She immediately raised her sword, and soared intent soared to the sky, sword shadows appearing around her, rapidly increasing and expanding their range. In the blink of an eye, the sword shadows covered thousands of miles around. An endless sea of sword shadows rose along with Xiaolan's sword, resembling a cluster of stars heading toward the cosmos. The sword qi formed tails like the rise of auroras, splendid to the extreme. Xiaolan swung her sword at Guan, and the sword shadows from all directions followed suit. Every sword shadow unleashed sword qi that shook heaven and earth, unstoppable. The ground trembled, the celestial vault ripped apart. In this overwhelming sword qi, everything appeared fragile. Guan did not use any divine skills. He flew straight toward Xiaolan. Speed increased dramatically, like a bolt of lightning, tearing through the sea of sword chi between heaven and earth, making it seem as though the celestial vault was split in two. Clang! Xiaolan's white spirit sword blocked Guan's sword scabbard, and at that moment, she felt her chi blood surging, extremely uncomfortable. She looked at Guan and found his expression so indifferent, his eyes devoid of any emotion. Such an expression deeply provoked Xiaolan. She leapt, disappearing in front of Guan, and reappeared behind him. Xiaolan summoned 72 large flags, quickly surrounding Guan. Almost instantly, a formation was set, and thousands of thunders erupted, intertwining around Guan. Guan slowly turned around, and as soon as the lightning was about to touch him, it vanished directly, creating an unapproachable area around him. Xiaolan's expression changed slightly. She stored the white spirit sword into her storage pouch and cast spells with both hands. The lightning changed color, transforming into purple thunder like dragons or snakes, crazily attacking Guan. The formation's light also surged, illuminating the entire world. Is this all you can do? Guan's voice echoed, causing the fighting spirit in Xiaolan's eyes to surge. Boom! 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 The world roared. The land continuously shattered, rocks soaring into the sky, and the dim celestial vault began to warp, seemingly unable to bear such a massive battle. An hour later, amidst the ruins, Xiaolan half knelt on a large rock, one hand gripping the white spirit sword to support her body. Her hair was disheveled, her robes torn and dirty, looking extremely bedraggled. She struggled to lift her eyes and saw Guan descending from the sky, hovering in front of her. In comparison, Guan seemed untouched by the battle. There wasn't a speck of dust on him, nor any sweat or bloodstains on his face. How is my strength? Guan asked. Xiaolan pouted. Very strong, I can't beat you. After the shock, she felt somewhat aggrieved. A few days ago, everything was so sweet. Yet today he was so stern. Guan smiled and said, as long as you can defeat me, you can become a Taoist emperor. I can teach you cultivation. Upon hearing this, Xiaolan looked at him, struggled to stand up, and asked, have you been to the path of the great Tao? I've been there. Then why did you pretend to be so curious when I talked to you about the path of the great Tao before? Xiaolan said with a grievance, feeling as if she'd been toyed with. Guan said, I went there in a past life. Everyone has their past life, you do too. If you wish, I can help you restore your past life memories now. Xiaolan furrowed her brows and asked, what realm are you exactly? Why are you hiding your cultivation level? Are you? She wanted to ask if Guan was sincere with her, but felt it was a question she couldn't voice. Guan smiled. I can't tell you my realm for now. When you exceed me, you'll know. As for hiding my cultivation level, it's because I don't want to cause trouble. I like peace and quiet. You should understand my nature. As for whether I'm sincere with you, you needn't doubt it. When I went to Xiao Manor back then, it was for you. Xiaolan furrowed her brows even more. She was no longer the innocent girl she once was. She only appeared naive in front of Guan. Is it because of my past life? Xiaolan asked. Guan nodded. Xiaolan fell silent. Hearing her inner voice, Guan said comfortingly, regardless of past or present life, you are you, only with different memories. If I cared only about your past self, I would have restored your memories long ago. Xiaolan took a deep breath and asked, can you help me become a Taoist emperor? Guan landed in front of her and answered, I can, but I can also guide you on another path, one not inferior to becoming a Taoist emperor. What path? Primordial Tao Emperor. Xiaolan's expression changed. She hadn't heard of this title, but just from the name, it seemed extraordinary. She couldn't help but ask, is the Primordial Tao Emperor also a level of destiny? Guan smiled. That's right, the path to becoming a Primordial Tao Emperor is different from the Emperor Road. It is not through killing, but through comprehension. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 673. The Legend of the Emperor of Eternal Life, If I become the primordial Tao Emperor, can I defeat the Taoist Emperor? Xiaolan asked the question she was most concerned about. In the years of roaming on the path of the great Tao, she had witnessed too many prodigies, all of whom were merely competitors of the Taoist Emperor. She couldn't imagine how truly powerful the Taoist Emperor was. Guan replied, whether it's the Taoist Emperor or the primordial Tao Emperor, it's just a boost of destiny. None is absolutely stronger, but becoming the primordial Tao Emperor, your future will be limitless. This wasn't just idle talk from him. The primordial Tao Emperor was a path he had forged, and he could use his power to grow infinitely stronger. Sooner or later, the primordial Tao Emperor would surpass the Taoist Emperor. Becoming the primordial Tao Emperor would not only evoke Gu An's power of the great Tao, but also allow enlightenment in Gu An's Tao. The name primordial was derived from Guan being the primordial Tao creation body. The title of Tao Emperor was simply meant to match the prestige of an emperor. He was inspired by Ji Xiaoyu's title of reincarnation Tao Emperor. One day, he would make the primordial Tao Emperor a more formidable existence than the Taoist Emperor. Not only his disciples could become the primordial Tao Emperor. Of course, that was a far-off future, as his creation of the primordial Tao Emperor was still ongoing. Currently it was just in the first stage, which could attract people to the Tao. Xiaolan pondered for a moment and said, "Anyway, you won't harm me. I'm willing to become the primordial Tao Emperor. Teach me." Guan smiled, waved his right hand, and Xiaolan's injuries instantly healed. Her mana was restored to a full state, and the entire dim world suddenly transformed back into the appearance of a grotto heaven. This scene made Xiaolan's eyelid twitch, and she couldn't help but ask, was it an illusion realm just now? No, it was the real world, created by me. Gu An's answer made Xiaolan secretly alarmed. What level of realm was required to achieve such a degree? Sit down. Guan lifted his robe and sat down, gesturing for Xiaolan to sit as well. Once Xiaolan sat down, Guan began to teach directly. Sir, the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The Taoist Emperor requires fighting and devouring great Tao destinies on the Emperor Road of the Great Tao. The final victor can become the Taoist Emperor. For the primordial Tao Emperor to rival the Taoist Emperor, it must also have an accumulation process. Guan did not intend to let the Tao seekers slaughter each other like raising poisonous creatures. He thought of his lifespan holograms, lifespan reincarnation, and the innate reincarnation skill. He planned to have the cultivators pursuing the primordial Tao Emperor gain enlightenment in reincarnation. Not a personal reincarnation, but a projection of will into reincarnation. It would exist in reality but would ultimately be annihilated. It wouldn't disturb the great Tao but could absorb its true essence. With this direction, he could better perfect it going forward. Xiaolan soon became engrossed in Gu An's teachings. The grotto heaven remained calm, with a serene beauty undisturbed by time. In the misty immortal court, within a vast golden hall, hundreds of youthful cultivators gathered, and Tianhao was among them. Many surrounded him, chatting, resembling stars arching around the moon. I finally got the qualification to compete for the Taoist Emperor. In a million years it'll be our turn. Time is pressing. Tianhao is truly remarkable. He hasn't even surpassed attaining the free immortal of Taoist song. Yet he has the qualification to compete for the Taoist Emperor. I heard that the ancestor values him highly. Don't be overly joyful. The road to the Taoist Emperor is arduous. We might end up killing each other. The disciples of the misty immortal court in the hall discussed matters of the Taoist Emperor. Tianhao remained silent, recalling the words of the elder who announced the Taoist Emperor matter. He always felt that the elder was watching him with ill intent. Although he had integrated into the misty immortal court, he wasn't born there, so he always had a barrier in his heart, preventing him from fully trusting anyone. Speaking of the Taoist Emperor, our misty immortal court has produced many Taoist emperors throughout history. Do you know which Taoist emperor had the highest talent? The words of a young man in blue clothes caught the attention of many, prompting Tianhao to turn his head. The blue-clothed man reveled in the attention. He cleared his throat and said, Naturally, it's the Emperor of Eternal Life from Jinlan Immortal Mansion. Born with the immortal Emperor's eye, he shocked the entire immortal court. Perhaps unmatched talent brings misfortune. Heaven is fair, so evil exists to covet his immortal Emperor's eye. Breaking into the misty immortal court, it cost his parents' lives. To protect him, the misty immortal court sent him to Ling Mountain. The Emperor of Eternal Life inherited the true teachings of Ling Mountain and was the heavenly Buddha ancestor's direct disciple. He was unbeatable once he embarked on the path of the great Tao, becoming the Taoist emperor in an incredibly short time. The Emperor of Eternal Life. The Immortal Emperor's Eye. Tian Hao had heard of this name, said to be a supreme genius from long ago. He had heard several seniors use the Emperor of Eternal Life to pressure talented disciples. However, when asking about more deeds of the Emperor of Eternal Life, they were warned not to inquire too much. The Emperor of Eternal Life seemed to be a taboo within the misty immortal court. Why did such a powerful Emperor of Eternal Life die? Someone asked, puzzled. The blue-clothed man mysteriously said, he didn't die from being killed. Even legendary immortal gods couldn't do anything to him. He entered the river of cause and effect for his beloved. Whether he truly perished remains unknown. In fact, many ancestors within the court anticipate his return. It's said that Ling Mountain occasionally sends disciples to the river of cause and effect for training, likely orchestrated by the heavenly Buddha ancestor. The Emperor of Eternal Life was the heavenly Buddha ancestor's most cherished disciple. The heavenly Buddha ancestor, being a supreme presence beyond the great thousand world, still longs for the Emperor of Eternal Life. Imagine his extraordinary talent? At these words, the surrounding disciples nodded in agreement, beginning to fantasize about the Emperor of Eternal Life. Even Tian Hao couldn't help but wonder about the elegance of the Emperor of Eternal Life. Wait, how do you know so much? A female disciple suddenly asked, prompting everyone to look at the blue-clothed man with odd expressions. Those who knew the blue-clothed man felt even more puzzled. The blue-clothed man maintained a smile, though it became increasingly eerie. Because I've met him and assisted him. The blue-clothed man said proudly, making those around him have even stranger expressions. Tian Hao sensed something and frowned, silently retreating. Suddenly, the blue-clothed man exploded into a black mist, quickly spreading out, causing surrounding disciples to retreat while holding their magic artifacts defensively. Little ones, I am the profound demon emperor under the Emperor of Eternal Life. I am also a Taoist emperor. Today, only one among you can survive, and the survivor will have the qualification to compete for the Taoist emperor. The voice of the blue-clothed man resounded, but his tone turned chilling. Rumble. The entire palace began to tremble, and Tian Hao's expression changed dramatically as he felt an overwhelming suppression from outside the hall. They had no way to escape. What was going on? Was it an enemy invasion, or an arrangement by the misty immortal court? Tian Hao took out his 3 Tao treasures and watched the black mist vigilantly, faintly catching the silhouette of someone walking within it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Though the misty immortal court isn't within the great thousand world, it's reasonable to speculate that it got involved due to the celestial emperor's struggle within the celestial court, as many immortal gods have emerged from the court. Guan had no intention of interfering. Though Tian Hao wasn't the strongest, he was destined to survive. Because Tian Hao was a reincarnation of the Son of Heaven, those of great power in the misty immortal court would remind the profound demon emperor. Indeed, as Tian Hao was severely injured, the profound demon emperor intervened to send him away. This great battle persisted within the divine power illusion realm for quite some time. Yet in reality, it was but an instant. Seeing Tian Hao unharmed, Guan then withdrew his gaze. He was not only reading but also condensing the fortune of the primordial Tao Emperor. To have the primordial Tao Emperor exist, one must create a truly existent fortune that cultivators could obtain and control. For this, he projected his lifespan 5 times to comprehend the path of Qi fortune. Sir the Nellfire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Every projection of his lifespan would manifest his reincarnation body in the celestial spirit great world. Fortunately, these reincarnation bodies didn't leave a renowned legacy, but became a psychological shadow of defeat for some of the absolute geniuses of the era, unforgettable for all eternity. Each lifespan projection required millions of years, and after using it 5 times, Guan's path of Chi fortune stepped into a brand new realm. Sure enough, things are easier with cheats. Guan thought to himself after 5 lifespan projections. Condensing the fortune of the primordial Tao Emperor was no longer difficult. This process not only advanced the cultivation of the primordial Tao Emperor, but also saw a growth in his own cultivation level. Guan continued to indulge in books and immerse himself in creating fortune. It wasn't until dusk fell that he stood up. He walked toward the peak where he lived, lifting his right hand. Streams of air circled his palm, supported by the wind, resembling water currents with a fiery sway. This was the fortune of the primordial Tao Emperor. Seemingly gentle, but actually imbued with the fierce strength of the path of power. Guan pondered repeatedly, and decided to embed the characteristic of fierceness into the primordial Tao Emperor. The primordial Tao Emperor, renowned for mighty power. Just thinking about it was exhilarating. With a foundation of greater strength, the primordial Tao Emperor, cultivating different great Taos, could achieve various creations and directions. By the time Guan reached his courtyard, the fortune of the primordial Tao Emperor in his hand was solid, twisting like a dragon or serpent. Shenzhen, sitting in meditation in front of the artifact refining cauldron, turned to look. Guan then dispersed the fortune in his hand. What was that thing in your hand just now? Shenzhen curiously asked. Guan smiled. Just a little spell. You've been sitting here for 1,000 years, aren't you going out for a walk? He deliberately leaked a trace of the primordial Tao Emperor's aura to Shenzhen, intending to lead her into the path in the future. Lately, Shenzhen encountered a bottleneck in comprehending the path of cause and effect, not even venturing into the mountains and rivers, but sitting in meditation in front of the artifact refining cauldron all day. She chose to sit here because there was a Tao treasure containing the path of cause and effect within the artifact refining cauldron. Don't tell me that appropriate relaxation aids enlightenment. I don't believe it anymore. Shenzhen glared at Guan, puffing her cheeks as she spoke. Guan indeed didn't dare say such things again. Having met with a bottleneck when creating the Tao before, the discomfort was indeed unbearable. Thus he chose to open up a little. After chatting for a while, Guan returned to his house alone. Next, he prepared to contemplate where to place the path of proving the Tao for the primordial Tao Emperor. One couldn't always require coming before him to become the primordial Tao Emperor. That would limit its development too much. The Taoist emperor placing the emperor road on the path of the great Tao was a fine guide. The path of the great Tao, being the convergence point of the 3,000 great Taos, had no rules, not even the celestial court couldn't control it, granting cultivators more freedom. He could also position the path of proving the Tao for the primordial Tao Emperor on the path of the great Tao. Let's call it the primordial Emperor Road. Adding 2 more words to Emperor Road, making it more appealing. Guan didn't act immediately, choosing to continue projecting his lifespan. This time, he intended to enhance the great Tao of creation. To turn what shouldn't exist into reality, and have it exist for a long time. The great Tao of creation was most crucial. No creation could be done without the great Tao of creation. Once again projecting toward the 3,000 great worlds. Guan was already experienced, uninterested in the process, only waiting for the result. Snowflakes flew, covering the vast mountains and rivers of the Qiankuan sect. In a great hall, Yi Qingshan, Lin Chen, and other high-ranking leaders of the Qiankuan sect surrounded a remarkably handsome yellow-robed disciple. This person was Yuan Luo, the reincarnation of Chaos Grudge Luo. Today, Yuan Luo had proven himself as the world's foremost genius, also the pride of the Qiankuan sect. Did you gain anything from this visit to the Tsangming Profound Sea? Yi Qingshan asked with a stroked beard and a kind face. Having watched Yuan Luo grow up, Yi Qingshan felt Yuan Luo was his greatest pride in life. Chapter 675. All beings are equal, accepting disciples. How is that possible? Could you have been deceived? Even if they could defeat you, their cultivation level must be higher than yours. Could it be some elder monster in disguise? An elder frowned as he spoke, and his words gained the support of others. They all believed that Yuan Luo couldn't possibly lose to an opponent of the same realm. Yi Qingshan also frowned. He believed that Yuan Luo's judgment wouldn't be wrong. He could sense Yuan Luo's setback, and Yuan Luo had been traversing the world for many years and had indeed lost to elder monsters before. Yuan Luo took a deep breath and said, I can confirm his cultivation level is not as high as mine, but I am unsure of his origins and do not know his name. The elder's consolation only made him feel worse. He was a proud person who disliked failure, but he disliked even more when others denied his failure. The high-ranking members of the Qiankuan sect listened in silence. As another peerless prodigy emerged, they calmed down and thought it might not be impossible, especially with Taiqian and the Dao court currently at war, the destiny of heaven and earth evolving, and great powers declaring that the time for an era change in heaven and earth had arrived. In such a season, the birth of beings with greater talent might not be impossible. Moreover, given the boundless vastness of heaven and earth, the Qiankuan sect is but a drop in the ocean. If the Qiankuan sect can give rise to a talent like Yuan Luo, why can't more prosperous places give birth to even stronger talents? Yi Qingshan spoke. Don't overthink it. When next time, or perhaps, I could recommend you go to the beginning list for cultivation? Upon hearing this, Yuan Luo shook his head and said, I don't want to go. I just want to rely on myself, and I still have a long way to go. If I reach the end and see no hope, then I'll seek other paths. Yi Qingshan didn't insist, but he found it strange in his heart. Yuan Luo's resistance to the beginningless seemed excessive. Yet Yuan Luo had never spoken ill of the beginningless. Other elders began to encourage Yuan Luo, hoping he wouldn't be disheartened. Faced with everyone's concern, Yuan Luo accepted each one, appearing very humble. He was arrogant to outsiders, but his reputation within the sect had always been good. This was why the Qiankuan sect was willing to support him at all costs, and his colleagues were proud of him. After chatting for quite a while, Yuan Luo finally took his leave. After he left, the elders finally expressed their true feelings. They found Yuan Luo's defeat inconceivable, and even birthed worries because of it. No need to worry, currently in the sect he is not the only world-class talent, and with the beginningless, we will not fall behind in terms of talent, Gu Changxing said. His words gained everyone's approval. Centuries of companionship were enough for them to trust the beginningless. Yi Qingshan followed up. The world situation is turbulent. Tell the people within the sect to be cautious and avoid entanglements with Taiqian and the Dao court. We cannot support either. Qiankuan sect must follow a path of self-reliance. Whether it be the Taiqian dynasty or the Dao court, behind them are numerous eternal transcendent forces, making them more like allies. The Qiankuan sect's development is not as advanced as theirs, but each step is very solid, and the top level is still composed of their initial members. After receiving the orders, the elders began to discuss the world situation. The Taiqian dynasty's offensive is fierce, nearly reaching the Dao court's mountain gate, causing an uproar throughout the land. People realized the Dao court was no longer the undisputed world ruler, which led many ambitious individuals to start scheming. The Dao court's territory is vast, and its foundations are deep. Even a small piece is enough to make a sect soar. 1,000 years later, Emperor Tianhong returned to the Daoist field of the beginningless. He came immediately to visit Guan Master, the person you asked me to mentor. He has died. I failed to protect him. Please punish me. Emperor Tianhong knelt behind Guan, his expression dejected. An Xian, who led the way, couldn't move upon hearing these words, standing still to ascertain to whom Emperor Tianhong referred. Guan was inside the pavilion writing a secret manual, his back to Emperor Tianhong, and said, No matter, dead is dead. I only asked you to teach him. Didn't expect you'd spend so many years before returning. That person was the reincarnation of the Tai immortal monarch. Under Emperor Tianhong's guidance, his cultivation progressed rapidly. Unfortunately, He died at the hands of a great power from the Taiqian dynasty. Even Emperor Tianhong couldn't stop it, and had to rely on the power of a Dao treasure to protect himself. Having spent so many years together, Emperor Tianhong developed deep feelings for Tai, his heart filled with grief and self-blame. He even hoped Guan would seek revenge for Tai, but he restrained himself, knowing that his master had no obligation to intervene. In his eyes, his master didn't meddle in worldly affairs, only acting when faced with external threats. To the master, all living beings under heaven were of equal standing, and the master wouldn't favor anyone. Tai's death was ultimately a personal vendetta. He insisted on competing with talents from Taiqian for heavenly materials and earthly treasures, resulting in the intervention of the opponent's support. Emperor Tianhong also made a move, but the opponents were numerous, and he couldn't prevail. I didn't expect to mentor for so long and ultimately developed compassion, Emperor Tianhong sighed. Chapter 676. Wuxi's Third Generation. Destiny fulfilled. After Guan agreed that an Xian could take on disciples, she eagerly headed to the Qiankuan sect. However, Enzin's standards were extremely high, and after going through the Qiankuan sect, she didn't find anyone suitable. Regarding this, she was not in a hurry, prepared to wait through the long years. She would either not accept disciples, or accept one who would be the strongest among the third generation of Wuxia disciples in the future. Although the third generation of Wuxia has not yet appeared, the Wuxia disciples have already begun to prepare eagerly. The once in millennium sparring already couldn't satisfy them, especially after the blood prison great saint, and an Xian took the lead. Other disciples began to contemplate other ways to surpass them. Guan not only had strong personal strength, but also his ability to cultivate disciples was evident to all, and naturally, the disciples wanted to emulate him. Upon hearing that an Xian was allowed to take disciples, other disciples in the dojo also approached Guan, hoping to take on students. Currently, aside from an Xian, only Celestial Demon Child, Celestial Cyan, Tianbai, Blood Prison Great Saint, Ghost Mother of Ephemera, Emperor Tianhong, Shenzhen, and Jiangshi remained in the dojo. Chen Chuan, Lvxian, and Xingtian had not returned until now. They had already established sects outside, and could only occasionally come back to visit. As for the competition among the disciples, Guan did not intervene, as long as it wasn't malicious competition. After all, in the long years, there needed to be some fun to pass the time apart from cultivation. Time passed in a flash, and another 10,000 years went by. An Xian still hadn't taken any disciples, and because of this, the other disciples were not in a hurry either. They adhered to the rules secretly, as an Xian was the senior disciple, and her disciple should be the leading disciple among the third generation. Moreover, they required a standard. Being the first to take a disciple would easily become a reference for others. With so many geniuses in the world, who could guarantee their disciples would be the strongest? But if others had already taken disciples, they could make comparisons. In these 10,000 years, Guan had performed 6 lifespan projections, making his achievements in the Great Tao reach an exceedingly high realm. On this day, right after the Spring Festival, Guan came alone to the vast path of the Great Tao. The path of the Great Tao was vast and boundless, not in the form of a cosmic plane. It was lush and flourishing with countless branches, each containing different Tao rules. The part of the path of the Great Tao he arrived at was considered the main trunk. Soon, these streams of airflow converged to form a gray mist studded with countless golden stars, still swirling around Guan. He raised his right hand and pointed in a direction, and the destiny of the primordial Tao Emperor surged that way. During the surge, this destiny gradually gained color, resembling a rainbow, but quickly becoming more vivid than a rainbow. Guan watched as it drifted far away. Only after it merged into the great Tao destiny and disappeared without a trace did he vanish as well. He didn't return directly to the celestial spirit great world, but visited other great worlds, even going to the primordial emperor domain and misty immortal court. Each time he went somewhere, he would erase his karma and aura. After several hundred back-and-forth trips, he finally returned to the celestial spirit great world. At this moment, it was still afternoon with a bright and sunny day. Guan went to the gathering flower sect and met with Jiang Qiong. Upon hearing Guan's message, Jiang Qiong immediately set aside everything and came to meet him, even having her disciples prepare immortal brew and immortal food. The two met in a small pavilion on the mountain top, outside of which a vast sea of clouds resembled an earthly fairyland. Did something happen? Guan asked with a smiling face, naturally aware of what Jiang Qiong faced. His direct call for her was also to help her out of a predicament. Upon hearing this, Jiang Qiong's smile faded. She furrowed her brows and sighed. It's still the Taiqian dynasty and the Dao court causing trouble. Taiqian is rallying all the sects and dynasties to divide Dao court's territory. Before Taiqian breaks Dao court, whatever territory the sects get will forever belong to them. But if they wait until Taiqian breaks Dao court, Taiqian will confiscate all the land in the world. The elders of our sect also want to get involved, but I don't think Taiqian will win. Why won't they win? Guan asked. Jiang Qiong gave Guan a sidelong glance and responded with irritation. Because the Taizong dynasty still exists, the Dao court won't annex the Taizong dynasty, but Taiqian will. Guan smiled helplessly. I have long been unrelated to the Taizong dynasty. The evolution of worldly affairs is not something I will interfere with. Really? Jiang Qiong didn't believe it, and her inner voice made Guan give her a glare. Guan fake coughed and said, I have an opportunity here if you can grasp it. The Gathering Flower sect might become as strong as the Dao court in the future. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 677. The Visage of an Old Friend, What Opportunity? Jiang Qiong's eyes lit up with curiosity, and she asked eagerly. She trusted Guan wouldn't deceive her, so she already began looking forward to the future of the Gathering Flower sect. Guan said, the Great Tao encompasses 3,000 paths. Besides qi absorption for immortal cultivation, there are many aids. I have an opportunity in hand called the Primordial Tao Emperor. By achieving the Primordial Tao Emperor, within the same realm, no one can defeat you. You will find it easier to attain enlightenment than other cultivators. Of course, becoming a Primordial Tao Emperor is no easy task. I can only provide an opportunity. Success depends on your efforts and fortune. Primordial Tao Emperor? Hearing this name, Jiang Qiong was instantly excited. Just from the name, she felt it was formidable. Guan then waved his sleeve, and a gust of clear wind brushed Jiang Qiong's face, causing her to become slightly dazed, her consciousness floating into the Great Tao. The initial opening of the Primordial Tao Emperor requires not only time but also Tao seekers. The more people comprehend it, the stronger it becomes. Destiny inherently needs to spread. Every living being carries the creation of the Great Tao, which they cannot perceive, but when they move toward a certain goal, the creation aligns with that target, forming an intangible, imperceptible destiny. The more beings pursuing the Primordial Tao Emperor, the faster its destiny grows. This process also aids Guan's Tao practice. Of course, he can also transmit his power to all cultivators through the Primordial Tao Emperor, complementing each other. While Jiang Qiong was immersed in the creation of the Primordial Tao Emperor, Guan began drinking wine. He decided to conceal the fact that the Primordial Tao Emperor was his own creation. Even his disciples wouldn't know the truth. Jiang Qiong was just the beginning. Guan would lead those he cared about into the Primordial Tao Emperor. Of course, if someone didn't want to become a Primordial Tao Emperor, he wouldn't force them. But he thought no one could refuse to become a Primordial Tao Emperor. Just like the attraction of the Taoist Emperor to the world, cultivators find it hard to refuse additional power to enhance themselves. Thus, in the years that followed, Guan transmitted the destiny of the Primordial Tao Emperor to his disciples, old friends, only saying that the Primordial Tao Emperor was a destiny ranked different from the Taoist Emperor. Just as he anticipated, no one refused to become a Primordial Tao Emperor. When dealing with Li Ye and martial resolution, Guan didn't appear in person but allowed them to encounter the opportunity to become a primordial Tao emperor in a serendipitous manner. This made both extremely happy, thinking they had found the greatest opportunity in the world. Through the destiny of the primordial Tao emperor, they sensed the vastness of the great Tao, even feeling their souls had transcended the great thousand world. To truly become a primordial Tao emperor, reaching the stage of soul projection is required, where the cultivators need to resonate with the great Tao. That is a high level of achievement, a process in which Guan would not assist them. If the primordial Tao emperor were chosen by his will, it could never surpass the Taoist emperor. On the path of the great Tao, in a void space, a man in red with white hair was treading a sword, his features handsome and posture upright, like an immortal monarch wandering the void. His name was Feng Xian, a heaven-encompassing free immortal. Suddenly his face turned pale, and he couldn't help raising his hand to clutch his chest, showing a pained expression. Damn it, I survived the celestial spirit great world. And after merely tens of thousands of years, I am to die on the path of the great Tao? Heaven, you truly love to toy with me, Feng Xian thought bitterly. Not long ago, he encountered two prodigies battling over the Taoist emperor. Because he stayed to watch, one of them secretly attacked him, cursed him with bad luck, and left him in great distress. He had just managed to become a heaven-encompassing free immortal. He also aimed to be a Taoist emperor. Yet, before setting foot on the emperor road, he was about to die. His heart filled with confusion, he couldn't help but think of the battle between the battle court and the supporting Tao sword venerable back then. He thought he had great destiny for surviving under the supporting Tao sword venerable. Now it seems it was indeed just good luck. On the path of the great Tao, his talent wasn't extraordinary. He was even defeated by contenders for the Taoist emperor in the profound Yuan free immortal realm. Looking back on his life, he was a renowned genius of the battle court since childhood, yet he had never done anything worth boasting about, always failing. He once found comfort in the idea of poor timing, but now? Feng Xian's eyes gradually dimmed, his mana roiling within, painful memories surfacing that he wished not to recall. He flew towards a nearby meteor. Upon landing, disregarding the flying sword, he staggered to a mountain wall, sat against it, and tried to meditate and cultivate energy. PFF. A mouthful of black blood spurted from his mouth, splattering on the ground and turning into scalding black smoke as it dissipated. He spat not only blood but also his Tao practice. They were fragments of his Tao fruit. SE of the novel Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. His Tao fruit was shattering. Feng Xian was unable to cultivate energy. He leaned back against the mountain wall, his head drooping. At this moment, he looked so weak, but such scenes were not uncommon on the path of the great Tao. He remembered the dead head scene before. He once admonished himself to be cautious, never to follow in their footsteps. But he never expected, fate was already before his eyes. Feng Xian's lips curled, revealing a self-mocking smile. Suddenly, a light appeared before him, capturing his attention. He instinctively looked up and saw a light at the end of the cliff ahead. For some reason he felt compelled to see that light clearly. He was dying anyway. He couldn't die so disgracefully. If he were to die, he would die standing. Feng Xian took a deep breath and forced himself to his feet, walking shakily forward. He was only a few dozen feet from the cliff's edge. Yet it felt like a lifetime's journey. When he finally reached the cliff's edge, his chin was stained with black blood, his entire being appearing miserably tragic. At the cliff's edge, he finally saw the existence within that light. A piece of silver crystal, like a fragment of some creation, emitting light while rotating. This is, Feng Xian murmured. As he recognized the silver crystal, his spirit condition surprisingly improved somewhat. He involuntarily raised his hand to touch the silver crystal. When his fingertip made contact with the silver crystal, a strong light burst forth, engulfing him in an instant. Supreme Sect, Third Medicine Valley. Under an old tree, Guan, transformed into a middle-aged cultivator, was playing chess with the nine-fingered divine monarch. Even though he had left the Supreme Sect for hundreds of thousands of years, because his sword intent atop the heaven-repairing platform had yet to disperse, Many still came in pursuit of the supporting Dao sword. Venerable Emperor Tianhong once came in the past. The supreme sect might not have been a top sect in the world, but its fame was immense. Guan's eyes slightly changed as he placed down the chess piece in his hand, somewhat surprised in his heart. Unexpectedly, this person has such fortune. Guan sensed someone stepping into the primordial emperor road of the primordial Dao emperor on the path of the great Dao. This person had some causal ties with him, being a cultivator from the battle court whom he had spared in the past. The cause and effect on the path of the great Dao are complex, especially concerning such destiny ranks as the primordial Dao emperor. Guan couldn't discern who in the future would become a primordial Dao emperor, so Fengxian's success came as a surprise. It's truly a case of fate playing tricks, turning foe into friend. Sitting opposite Guan, the nine-fingered divine monarch stared at the chessboard, his brows furrowed tightly. He occasionally glanced up at Guan, then back at the board, thinking deeply. After a while, the nine-fingered divine monarch looked up at Guan and said, "This fellow Taoist, you remind me of an old friend." Guan chuckled and asked, "Who?" The nine-fingered divine monarch stood up, walked to the side, turned his back to Guan, and stroked his beard sentimentally, saying, "He was someone who disappeared almost 400,000 years ago. His chess skills were second only to mine. I see his style in you." Guan glanced at the board and internally scoffed. Is he trying to take this chance to end the game? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Guan accompanied Xiaolan in cultivation while examining his attribute panel. Name: Guan. Lifespan: 445 for 92/31, 076, 970, 562, 704. Physique: Primordial Dao creation body. Cultivation level: Perfect Taoist Great Luo Immortal Realm. His lifespan was growing steadily, but it was still far from 1,000,000,000 years. Guan planned to attempt a breakthrough after reaching 1,000,000,000,000 lifespan. Though the variables invading the celestial spirit great world were increasing over the years, none posed any threat to him, so he remained unfazed. These variables were normal. Any powerful great thousand world would attract visitors from outer heaven. The celestial spirit great world, while not yet strong, was in a phase of rapid development, attracting beings from other great thousand worlds and dimensions to explore opportunities. The Taiqian dynasty was supposed to perish within a few thousand years, but was extended by visitors from outer heaven for 10,000 years. Of course, it wasn't just the Taiqian dynasty that had help from outer heaven. The Dao court did too. The master of the Dao court, Yuan Songzi, originally hailed from another great thousand world. Xiaolan opened her eyes, gazing at Guan, and sighed. "Brother Gu, I still can't achieve the level of projection. It's too difficult." Although the primordial Dao emperor doesn't require fighting like the Taoist emperor, the difficulty is no less. Guan sat on a tree playing with the 7-star mirror, smiling. Precisely because it's difficult, it proves its strength. Why rush? You have plenty of years to try. Xiaolan took a deep breath and curiously asked, "Brother Gu, how many years did it take you to become a primordial Dao emperor?" "About 1,000,000 years. Guan replied casually. Hearing this number, Xiaolan felt relieved yet despaired. 1,000,000 years. Even if her talent was greater than Guan's, wouldn't it take her at least 500,000 years? She felt a bit exhausted. She stood up and said, "Brother Gu, how about we go out and have a look around?" Guan jumped down from the tree, pocketing the 7-star mirror, and walked toward Xiaolan. "What's so good about that mirror that you always carry it with you?" Xiaolan couldn't help but ask. Her divine sense once peeked at the 7-star mirror, but found nothing unusual about it. Guan replied, "I'm the only one who knows its value." Xiaolan rolled her eyes. Luckily, the mirror hadn't become sentient, or she would have been more suspicious. Guan accompanied Xiaolan out of the grotto heaven, his attention once again focusing on the path of the great Dao. That Fengxian had actually succeeded in projection. This guy had an extraordinary comprehension on the primordial emperor road. Guan eagerly anticipated his achievement of primordial Dao emperor status. A primordial Dao emperor needed someone to showcase its splendor. Defeating a Daoist emperor would have even more impact. On the path of the great Dao, atop a meteor. Chapter 679. New Momentum. The Dark Void. A mass of purple clouds floating in front of a bright full moon, with a cliff standing above the clouds, where an old man in a white robe is sitting. He has white hair and a youthful face, with two halos floating behind his head, constantly changing colors, beautiful and mesmerizing. He opens his eyes, pinches his fingers to calculate, his expression becomes strange. He begins to continually deduce, but unfortunately, no matter how he deduces, he cannot unlock the confusion in his heart. A figure suddenly appears behind him, a celestial god dressed in blood armor, with a terrifying aura, white hair fluttering, and a blood flower imprint on his forehead. It is the celestial destruction god. He has another identity, known as Longmia, the grandson of Emperor Longxin. The celestial destruction god bends and raises his hand, saluting the old man in white, saying, "Master, your disciple has come to see you. How many years has it been? You have finally come. It seems you have successfully refined a Dharma body for that entity." The old man in white speaks, his tone calm. The celestial destruction god replies, "Duty calls. The celestial mandate cannot be violated." The celestial mandate cannot be violated? Indeed, it cannot be violated. The old man in white stands up, turns to look at the celestial destruction god, gazing up and down, with a look of gratification in his eyes. "Your Tao practice is not bad, proving you haven't wasted your time. You're not unworthy of my cultivation." The old man in white strokes his beard and smiles. The celestial destruction god responds, "Master has cultivated more than just this disciple. Without Master, I would have died long ago." The old man in white shakes his head, turning to gaze into the dark void, while the celestial destruction god looks at him intently. CTH Novelfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Disciple, your talent is extraordinary, possessing gifts that even the immortal gods find hard to match. From now on, you need not restrain your desire for slaughter. The old man in white says softly, reflections of great explosions flickering in his pupils. The celestial destruction god frowns upon hearing this and asks, "Do you think it is already that time? Even if it hasn't arrived, you must prepare in advance. The changes in the great Tao are becoming increasingly complex, and the struggles within the celestial court are growing fiercer. Who can say how much disaster lies within, and what it will ultimately evolve into?" The old man in white sighs as he speaks. The celestial destruction god remains silent for a moment before saying, "I am not prepared to rely on the talent left by the Long family. The Long family should disappear. I will only cultivate steadily." The old man in white glances at him, saying meaningfully, "It seems someone from the Long family still lives, and you've gained a burden. The old you couldn't wait to be free of restraints." The celestial destruction god replies, "Indeed, some still live, but they have cut ties with the past. I simply do not wish to follow the old path of the Long family, growing stronger through slaughter. To me, that is not the righteous Tao." Hearing this, the old man in white chuckled, shifting his gaze back to the void. Before returning to the celestial court, take a trip along the path of the great Tao. There is new fortune born there. What exactly it is, you shall explore for yourself." The old man in white instructed. The celestial destruction god agreed, saluted him, and then vanished from the spot. Only the old man in white remained on the cliff, standing in front of the bright moon, his figure appearing desolate. Who will be the next celestial emperor? Is this truly just a battle for the celestial emperor? The old man in white muttered to himself, with no one able to answer him. He was questioning himself. Taoist field of the beginningless. Another 10,000 years have passed since Feng Xian's first reincarnation projection successfully appeared. The human world has ushered in a new prosperous age, with the 100 sects vying for supremacy. Yet neither the Qiankuan sect nor the Supreme sect, despite their strengthening, were able to enter the ranks of the 100 sects of the world. Over the years, besides daily life, Guan is most concerned with the fortune of the primordial Tao Emperor. Currently, over 300 cultivators are pursuing the primordial Tao Emperor along the path of the Great Tao. More than 1,000 have encountered this opportunity, some perishing in the recent 10,000 years, others giving up on this opportunity. Generally speaking, having over 300 cultivators striving for the primordial Tao Emperor, this destiny is considered to be formed. Although the primordial Tao Emperor does not seek quick strength through victory, the reincarnation projection speeds up cultivators' advancement, possibly resulting in the emergence of the first primordial Tao Emperor within hundreds of thousands of years, which piques Guan's curiosity. Who exactly will it be? Feng Xian was the first to begin, but new talents have emerged along the path of the Great Tao, with momentum surpassing his. As for the Tao seekers in the celestial spirit great world, they were all acquaintances of Guan. Their natural abilities did not match the prodigies of the path of the Great Tao, and Guan would not show favoritism towards them on the primordial Emperor road, as they almost certainly could not become the first primordial Tao Emperor. On this day, within the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guan plays the flute while watching the celestial battle in the sky.